All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on October 23rd, 2025 at 6:05 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Zeitz,
Here.
Commissioner Terrell,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Stefan,
Here.
Commissioner Cobian,
Here.
Vice Chair Baker,
Here.
Chairperson DeJeanette.
Here. I invite Commissioner Baker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hand over your heart.
Okay, we'll now move into the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have a vote. Okay, the motion does carry. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful towards others. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to speech. Any person wishing to speak, either under the agendized or non-agendized items, should fill out a request to speak form available at the door and submit the form to the secretary prior to the end of the comment period. During the public comment period, each member of the public will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The public must direct their comments to the chairperson of the commission. Do we have any public comments not on the agenda?
Yes, Chair, we do have comments that are not on the agenda. We also have provided at the dais comments that were received via email. Those include the comments from the previous Planning Commission meeting and those that were received up until 5 p.m. this evening. Our first speaker is Jack Ergish, followed by April Rankin, and followed by Lindsay Robinson.
Works. I gotta talk fast. I'm here regarding the 555 lots, meadows, whatever. Let me start off here. I called Eastern Municipal Water District to find out if they had sewer on north of the freeway, and they don't. And I asked them if they had any plans for sewer north of the freeway. They said they don't. She told me it was up to the developer to get it approved and all of that. The problem with putting a sewer on the north of the freeway, you're probably going to tear up a bunch of streets, Nason, Ironwood. The sewer's going to be 20 to 30 feet deep, so those streets are gone. Going to have to be rebuilt. Next thing, water. Water, there is water north of the freeway, but I'm sure it was designed for R2. If you start putting 555 lots all over the north side, then we're not going to have water for the fire department. So there's going to have to upgrade the water. Okay, let's see what else we got. Traffic for this. I'm sure you're going to have a traffic study done for this. And they're going to say all of the traffic's going to go down Moreno Beach or it's going to go down Nason. I live in that area. I don't go to the freeway because the freeway's backed up. So what do? I drive down Ironwood. I go on that dangerous road, because it's been in the paper numerous times that it's a dangerous road. So I want to know if they're going to widen that street, do something to it. Is the developer going to do it, or is the city going to do it? I don't know. This development, I have a copy of what they proposed right here. I was here 2016 and spoke about this project. The topography shows 4 different lows for this property. Now, I don't know how they're going to get the drainage from the corner of Ironwood and Nason all the way over to the low at Ironwood and Merino Beach. They have to do that. They have water quality issues, drainage issues. You're diverting water. I'm not sure if flood control lets you divert water like that. And all of the flood control plans are designed as if this was R2, I'm sure. So if you start putting all of these houses on there, the increase in water, the drainage is going to overmax some of these basins. As far as the basins is concerned,
Oh, thank you, sir.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is April Rankin, followed by Lindsay Robinson, and then followed by Denise Indermuele.
Good evening. So I'm going to be addressing the Moreno Meadows concerns as well. I know at the last, one of the earlier meetings, there was a lot of things that came up regarding questions to the people who had come to talk to us about their plans, and their plans didn't seem as if they had even like went out to the area to look at how their plans are going to match what the area actually can hold and have there. Some of the things that were my biggest concerns had to do with the fire safety issues. I'm off Calmia and Merino Beach Drive, so I can't go left or I can't go right because I hit like the end of the street, and the only way I can go is left. And they had 4 exits out of that whole community. 4 with 500 and some odd places, with how many people in each family trying to get out in their cars, and they're 2-lane roads. That does not, on Ironwood, that doesn't make any sense. I would imagine we have to put, if you were to do something like that, you would have to first devise the roads to be ready for that. You can't put the horse before the cart, the cart before the horse, rather. You know what I'm trying to say. But the issue is, it's late, sorry, and I'm tired. But the issue is safety and fires. You know, we get earthquakes, we get fires. If we all try to exit, there's no way for all of us to be safe. There is absolutely no way. With children, if there's, more family housing, especially lower income, are going to have more children. Even though there's parks in that area for the kids to play and so forth, they're just going to be contained in that little area? I don't think so. They're going to end up doing other things. We have hardly anything for the kids to do, the older kids. We have little, stuff for the smaller kids to do, but the teenagers, there's nothing for them to do to hang out. That's why they're making trouble over at Moreno Valley Mall. And you're thinking about bringing in all these new people. We already have the other apartment buildings going up in different parts of Moreno Valley. Can we at least keep one section or a section of our community, not inundated with just a bunch of people for the sake of having the money? I mean, that's not helping anybody with the quality of life who have to live here and who plan to live here with our families. The other thing is light pollution. Where I live at, on my block, there are no street lights. You can go out there in the middle of the night, beautiful lights. You can sit out by the pool and listen to nature. You can hear the animals, the horses, a few, houses down. Everybody around me has 1 acre to 5 acres worth of land. It is beautiful to be able to go out and do that. I was hoping to retire and be there forever at being able to do that. You bring in all these different housing in an area that was really only structured for R2, for limited amounts of family.
Time is up.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a comment just about the Moreno Metals project, since I anticipate there are going to be some comments about it. I'd just like to state for the record that it's not the city that's proposing this unprecedented density for this area. In fact, the staff does not support the density that's being requested by the developer, but we have to go through the public hearings in order to make a final determination on the recommendation. Our concern is that the density that's requested by the developer is not consistent with our current zoning, and is not consistent with our general plan, and not consistent with the vision of that community. However, we are mandated by the state, to provide concessions and waivers on zoning, which we totally disagree with. We are mandated to deal with issues that have been brought up by the State Department of Housing and Community Development with respect to density bonus, which now the state is telling us that we have to allow developers to consider accessory dwelling units as the basis for determining the increased density that they want. Because staff does not support this increase in this unprecedented density in this area, we have asked that the developer post a website, create a website, so they can explain to the public why they are increasing this density and why they are asking for these concessions. Because we made it very clear to them that the staff does not support this unprecedented density in that area, because it's going to change the character of that community. And just for the record, the city is not going to make any money off this project, and that's one of the concerns the city has, is that how are we going to mitigate all these impacts that are to be created by all these additional housing units and that increased density. So again, this project is going to be subject to public hearings, and we encourage the public to show up to express their concerns. And as soon as they post their website to explain the density they requested, we will post that link on our city's website under the city's project page on our city's website under planning.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Robinson, just one moment, please.
Oh, of course.
So, Chair, our next speaker is Lindsay Robinson, Denise Indermuele, and then followed by Jennifer Cordova.
Good evening, Planning Commission and staff. I'm here to talk about non-transparency. I'm on the city's list to receive agenda emails when there's an agenda that comes out. And I guess you send out an amended agenda after 6 p.m. last night, which is less than 24 hours before this meeting, which I don't think is right, because obviously the members of the public and those who work won't have time to go over it and try and find the documents we need to read to comment. So I'm just asking that this meeting be continued until the proper amount of time has been given for the agenda notification. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I also respond to that issue? Ms. Robinson is correct. We are not allowed to post items on the action items on the agenda within 24 hours, actually within 72 hours before the meeting. However, because of a glitch due to the city's new software on agendas, what happened is that what was listed as the additional items were actually documents. So instead of just listing them as documents, somehow they listed them as action items, but we're not asking for any action to be taken on those items. It's just background material pertaining to the issues that were raised by the Attorney General's office. So for transparency purposes, we release those documents and we release the staff report. But for some reason, the software listed them as agenda items rather than identifying them as additional documents related to the agenda item tonight.
I see. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Denise Indermuele.
Hi, my name's Denise Indermuele. I've lived in Moreno Valley since 1968. I've lived in my house for about 40 years. I grew up on the East End because I was a kid, went to high school here, and we moved there for a reason. And the reason was the large lots, the animals, to be able to have that kind of lifestyle. And that's what we want to continue. That's what we wanted to raise our kids with, and that's what we want to see continue. Ironwood cannot handle the traffic. You guys have already heard that a couple times. I can't even get out when Valley View's opening to make a left onto Nason to get on the freeway when school starts. It's crazy. Can you imagine 550, so 1,000 more cars if you have 2 cars a household? There's no way. I'd never be able to get out of my neighborhood. I'd be stuck. Which is great. You know, I can have groceries delivered, but still, nothing would get there. And to go back to his question, I'm hearing that, you know, the city really doesn't want this, that the builders want it and stuff. But am I wrong in saying, doesn't our planning council and our city council both have to approve it? Is that not correct? So that's why we're here. We want you to know our feelings. This is, I went to a city council meeting a couple weeks ago. This is the second time in all the years I've lived in Moreno Valley I've been here, other than when my kids got awards, because you're gonna kill our neighborhood. And like the one said about the lights and seeing the stars and all of that. We love Moreno Valley. We love that end. Please keep it large lots. Don't move it to small lots. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I respond to that as well?
Certainly.
What the speaker is referring to is the primary animal keeping overlay that's set forth in our municipal code and our general plan. That's another issue that the staff is adamantly opposed to removing. The developer has requested that as a concession or a waiver. We are opposed to that. The Housing and Community Development Department is advising the city that we are required to provide that waiver and concession. And while it's true that the Planning Commission and City Council will conduct public hearings and render a decision on it, we will be providing the Planning Commission and City Council with what's the scope of authority you have with respect to whatever action you want to take on this. So again, the staff report is going to be, we're going to spell out exactly what conversations we had with the Housing Community Development Department and the developer, so the public is well aware that staff is opposed to the removal of this primary animal keeping overlay from that particular community.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Cordova, followed by Sean Fortin and Christopher Baca.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Cordova. I live close to the proposed Moreno Meadows. I'm just not happy about the potential change in the rural character of our corridor of the city. I would request a continuance of this planning meeting regarding the zoning change. I don't think this process should be fast-tracked. The city is allowed to remove the recommendations for the R10 zoning in Northeast Moreno Valley, but we need transparency as to your findings in this matter as far as the climate action plan, the environmental impact on our area. And 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, they said that there was a possible conflict of interest among a member or members of the advisory committee. So has that been investigated fully in the last 2 weeks? I'm not so sure if it has, or if you have any comments about that. We need answers and transparency to these serious concerns expressed in the Attorney General's letter sent only 2 weeks ago. This letter was meant to protect us, and we just ask that you please listen to us. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, those questions will be addressed in the verbal staff report.
Our next speaker is Sean Fortin, Christopher Baca, and followed by Marcia Narag.
Hi, I'm Sean Fortine. I just had a couple questions. One, I've noticed over the course of several months now that there's often not a lot of activity in this commission. I mean, tonight and the previous meeting notwithstanding, a lot of times that you guys can combine 2 meetings into one to just so we have business to do. I mean, I've been here since 1987, and so I love having lots of open and empty space here, but the reality is that the economy and the growth isn't going to support having that open space. So I understand, I'm not blaming you guys because I understand you guys only handle business that's brought before you, but who is someone supposed to be in charge of drumming up business to bring before you guys? And on a similar note, for the Economic Development Department, I also want to ask about that because they put out these monthly flyers, and a lot of the jobs that they offer are poverty wages, really. It's not something that you're going to afford your own apartment and a car, much less have food to go with it, or much less buy a house with it. The restaurant jobs probably shouldn't even be bragging about for 2 years, because a lot of those are going to fold before then. In the case of the existing office space and shopping centers, these businesses are coming and going really fast, and you guys are, somebody, not necessarily you guys, but somebody is advertising new businesses while the last people working in that spot are already in the unemployment line, and it's a cycle again and again. So, so I'm just wondering who's in charge of all this, because the one thing that I've noticed is, worst of all, is that not only are the jobs bad, but they're counting the same bad jobs several months in a row. They're double counting to fill up this flyer. I have to admit that their graphic designer has really put in their back into it. The graphic designer does great work. I just wish the rest of this office did as well. So if you guys could tell us about who's in charge of all this and why they're not bringing in business, that would be awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christopher Baca, followed by Marcia Narag, and then followed by Lisa Spencer.
Good afternoon, Council. I've lived in Moreno Valley since 1990. That's going on 35 years. I'm a community activist. Currently, what we're working on is voter registration and getting out the vote, and that would be yes on 50. And the reason why that's relevant is because we're fighting all our geese that are special interests that are infiltrating government, and that's 1,001%, 1 billion% relevant to Moreno Valley, where there's special interest and developers that are bribing city officials, city government, and so forth with their special interest and dark money, and that is very, very, very prevalent in this city. It's very relevant to the Planning Commission because like I said, I've lived here for many years. We advocated for the World Logistics Center. We advocated for the Aquabella. And lo and behold, here we are, 2025, 20 years after Aquabella, 10 years after World Logistics Center, and now another project that's proposed for Gilman Springs that's about to come up to you, which is all but a bunch of nonsense. What's going on here where you guys are just approving all this nonsense, and why? Why is this developer everywhere except building or doing anything that he promises to do? The World Logistics Center, he was supposed to put in his own infrastructure, build a big bridge, the big bridge that was the gateway to the nation. Whatever happened with that? Now the city and the state is paying for it as well as the city. How is that relevant to the Planning Commission? Because I think you guys should stand up and do more. And those of you that are tired or just don't want to no longer, all you want to do is come here and rubber stamp the nonsense. It's time for bye-bye. It's enough. Let a new breed come in here and do their work. They should be overlooking these projects and seeing that they're not fulfilling their promises and get them out. You know, it's enough. You know, how are you going to build all that nonsense with no infrastructure? We can't even get out of Moreno Valley. When we came here, the traffic to LA was 1 hour. Now it's 1 hour just getting out of Moreno Valley. 24/7. The 215 is 24/7. How in the hell are you going to put more stuff in this city? And the Planning Commission is just here to rubber stamp all that nonsense. Shame on you. It's time for half of you to leave. Goodbye.
Mr. Chair, may I comment to that too? No, I think it's important that the public receive some sort of response, particularly in this context. So on the World Logistics Center, there have been some questions about the status of compliance with their various mitigation measures. With the World Logistics Center, there were various CEQA-related mitigation measures imposed on the project, and some of those mitigations required that Highland Fairview pay certain amount or to fund certain amount of fund certain improvements or to contribute money toward certain improvements. In addition to the mitigation measures that were imposed through the environmental process, the Highland Fairview settled with various environmental organizations and RCTC, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, and they have various obligations set forth in their settlement agreement terms. What we are going to do is we are going to post a matrix that outlines the status of their compliance with all of these provisions, just keeping in mind that the settlement agreement terms and conditions really have nothing to do with the city, but for the purposes for public purpose, we want them to know that there are certain grant programs that Highland Fairview agreed to provide to our residents through their settlement agreements, and they are also obligated to provide certain funding for various transportation improvements to RCTC. So we are gathering all that information. We are going to work with Highland Fairview to confirm and to actually see the payments to make sure that they have complied. And so that will be posted on our website. With respect to the Gibbon Springs project, that project is, we're also creating a page for that on our website to give the public an idea of where we are with it right now. It's just beginning. It's something that's going to be presented. It has to go through LAFCO for an annexation proceeding, so there'll be public hearings over that. If LAFCO approves the annexation, then it's going to be presented to the Planning Commission and the City Council, and there will be public hearings over that as well.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marcia Narag, and then followed by Lisa Spencer.
Hi, I'm Marcia Narag, and I'm here representing the Northeast End. I was going to talk a little bit about this 555 Merino Meadows, but if we're not going to have it because the city's going to be opposed to it, I'm happy with that. My one comment is I've been coming to these meetings for decades. When the city first opened, I was actively involved in the general plan overlays and the general plans, and as far as I'm concerned, most of them have been ignored or exceptions have been made for what the people really wanted in their neighborhoods. We're seeing this once again with higher density. The Highway 60 corridor program that we wanted to have shops and small businesses is turning into a warehouse nightmare. We made a little error in allowing the industrial component to be in there, and what happens? Somebody comes in and it's like 99% warehouses. The Planning Commission is supposed to be overseeing this. I don't know how many of you have been here for how long, but I think the way the city has developed is disgusting, and it's an abomination, and it's not how the majority of the citizens wanted it. We want low-density animal keeping properties in the Northeast End. From what I can see with the new general plan update, that's not going to be an option. We fought hard for animal keeping. I have people come by my house or talk to me about how can I get a property like this, and we have always embraced having more development with animal keeping and large lots, but we get ignored. The south part of the East End wanted that. What do we have there now? We got apartments, high density, and the animals are just being edged out. We want larger lots. We want quality of lifestyle. The trucks and the gravel trucks and the semi trucks that are coming through my neighborhood are destroying the roads. I had asked about the roads being disrepaired. They said, oh, well, here's our plan for repairing the roads. Well, they put some slurry coat on our roads. I go biking there every day. And the roads are falling apart. It hasn't even been 2 years because we have all this heavy traffic on them, and they weren't built with high quality standards. So as you're looking through this general plan and the updates, I want to know how come I haven't been invited to make comments about this atrocity that it's going to be with the high density at Merino Beach, south of Ironwood. That's totally inadequate for what we want for our neighborhood aesthetics. And as other people have mentioned, the traffic is awful. It takes the hour from the east end to this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but
No,
I just
no,
want
no,
to
no.
respond to these. I just want to make it clear that just because staff does not support the density requested by the Merino Meadows developer or the removal of the primary animal keeping overlay zone, the developer is entitled to due process because there's property rights involved, so we're compelled to have public hearings, and I encourage anyone who opposes that project or supports the project to show up for those public hearings.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lisa Spencer, followed by Danielle Peel.
Hi, I'm Lisa Spencer. We moved here in 1984 and lived on the West End, and in 1990 we moved to the east end of Moreno Valley because of the rural area, and we're just losing all of that. I don't think that they should change the zoning, anything R2 or not to R10. I know that it's just going to increase crime. I've had over the years sheriffs that have come through that I've happened to talk to say that that's a quiet area there, and with all that high density housing, it's going to increase crime. And I'm also fearful that it's also going to affect all of our property values going down. And I've lived there a long time, and I hate to see that happen, especially in retirement years. So I'm hoping that you will not change the zoning, leave it R2. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to say this name wrong. Our next speaker is Danielle Peel, followed by Ron Alguire.
Everybody does it. Good evening. My name is Danielle. I have lived here since 1989. I joined the military, left, and came back. I love our country as much as I love this city. The things that concern me with this project that's being brought into us is the animals are going to be relocated. When they had that fencing up temporarily, it already interrupted the environment. We couldn't take our bike rides. We couldn't walk our animals. And then the animals were getting trapped. There was multiple donkeys trapped in that area. We had to call the donkey land to help them come survive them. The smells, when we're going to be doing that, we're in the rural. We already live next to a landfill. Now we want to add more of this, which is just going to increase the smell in our property area. There was a native ancestry chief that was near the Badlands. You guys can't already build, so why are we building closer? Why are we taking more away from the native land? Our water pressure is going to go down. It already is an issue above Northridge Elementary. The school, all the houses up there suffer from low water pressure, and there's nothing that the city can do per the water company. We're going to have transportation issues. I've called numerous times. I'm pretty sure multiple people have called. We already have street racing going up there. Our roads get destroyed. Police can't get up there fast enough. And then now you're going to add all these homes and these apartments to a small area, also, which is a fire zone. Being in the healthcare and knowing what our fire department goes through on a daily basis, it's not fair to add that risk to them or to us. So when we think about that, we need to also think about safety issues for all of our community. It's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the animals, and it's not fair to this that we have to add the traffic, the transportation issues. They're nowhere they're going to be able to get to, but the closest grocery store is across the freeway. How are they supposed to go over there when there's no streets or public sidewalks? This is a safety issue for the whole community around, and it really needs to be thought about as a whole, not just as a money thing, because it's unfortunate. The money was what makes this world go round, and it shouldn't happen that way. Thank you for this time. Please think about it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ron Alguire.
Close. Alguire, but that's okay. I'm here to speak on the same issue with the Meadows, and a lot of people have already mentioned the strained utilities in the city, in public service. The traffic congestion is for sure. They're right. It's at least an hour if you're leaving anywhere between 7 and 9:30 to get out of Moreno Valley, even to the split. The other thing I'm concerned about is the habitat loss. So it's, I live high enough on the upper north end to see what's happening in the city. I see all the warehouses out there. I see, building up. I see them trying to come west of Redlands Boulevard with warehouses, which shouldn't happen. I have family and friends that live down there, same issue. But the one thing we always have had, and I've been here off and on basically all my life. I moved because of March Air Force Base. My dad came in and out of here, 10 times. So I went to kindergarten out here and I graduated out of Moreno Valley High. So I'm very invested in this area. I moved away, I moved back and up to the northeast side because of what it was. It was nice and open, lots, the 2R. That's what I came here for. We talked about the pollution and the noise levels, but high density will alter the character of existing neighborhoods, leading to a transition from home ownership to rental properties. Once you put that in there, people buy up those type of houses and rent them out for income. You're going to see that. You also have what they call a urban heat island when you put that much density because of the pavement and everything else. So we really need to take a look at that, what it's going to change, because things grow off of each other, and the northeast side needs to stay the way it is, and I appreciate you listening to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers?
We have no more speaker cards.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial and may be enacted by a motion unless a member of the commission requests that an item be removed for separate action. Items withdrawn from the report or discussion will be heard before the action of the consent calendar. Questions or comments from the public on the consent calendar matter must pertain to the subject matter consideration. At this time, would any commissioner like to pull an item from the consent calendar for a separate discussion? No, we don't have it. All right, do we have any public comments for the consent calendar?
No, we have no speaker cards, sir.
Okay, do we have a motion and second for the consent calendar?
I'll move that we accept the consent calendar as submitted.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Commissioners Taylor and Stefan, are you having trouble with your votes?
Okay, the motion does carry.
Mr. Chair, I understand that we have an additional speaker who wants to make some comments about items not on the agenda.
Okay, let's see, we'd have to go back to public comments.
Right.
Okay, so we'd open back up the public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Rezoning is on the agenda, though.
My name's Joe Lockhart. I've been a resident for over 35
I'm
years.
sorry, sir. Please wait for your time to start.
Hang on, just 1 second, sir.
Sorry, too much coffee today, I guess. What am I waiting for? Oh, there it goes. I'm on my second pack. Anyway, I've lived for 35 years. I'm kind of heartened that the council or the committee here is looking down on this project. It's a nightmare. It's just a builder's gold mine. That's all it is. They tried this before a couple years ago, and it was another joke. Every builder wants to make as much money as possible. I get that. I'm a contractor, okay? But we don't have the infrastructure these other people say here. How many people are against this project? Well, that'll tell you something right there, okay? And include me on that. We just don't have the infrastructure, and you know that. Anybody that drives on the streets around here, drives on the freeways, knows that. And if you don't go out of your house ever, then I forgive you. But I think everybody else goes down these roads, even going out to Beaumont Benning. They're going nuts out there. Why do we need to destroy that end of the city where I live? They want to put it literally right behind my house, okay? That's in a very bright red high fire danger zone, okay? Which they dropped down into our neighborhood on this latest change that the fire department or the fire district or whoever it may be changed. So they dropped some of that red right into my house. Now I got to go through the city, the state plan, right? Which is very expensive. I'm about 110% higher in taxes and homeowners insurance than I was last year. Now, everybody and anybody who builds up there is going to be in the same boat. They're going to have to get that high-end insurance, and it's going to be frowned upon by a lot of people. But we don't need it. I came back from Redlands the other night at 5:30, coming out of Moreno Valley down Redlands Boulevard. It was backed up 3/4 of a mile up Redlands Boulevard, not just down in the canyon. That's just, and then there's tractor trailers over there, more and more. How many people see more tractor trailers coming around there? Okay, down on the, through the canyons because they don't want to go on the freeway. I don't say they're stupid. I think they're smart. But at the same time, it's causing a lot of problems, and we don't want to have another one like we had in Ontario the other day. My point is, thank you for considering not approving this because this is just a bankroll for the builders. And trust me, I know what they want. I'm a builder too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I respond real quickly? Just for the record, it's staff that does not support the increased density of this particular project, nor do we support the removal of the primary animal keeping overlay zone. But again, because of due process concerns, the Planning Commission is precluded from taking an official position on this project until a public hearing is conducted and you're provided with the merits of the project.
Thank you. All right, so let's see. We went past the consent calendar. Looks like we're on to public hearing items.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair and Commission.
Well, go right ahead. I was going to say the next item on the agenda is item number 1, 2024 General Plan Update, Associate Zoning, Text and Zoning Atlas, Amendment, and 2024 Climate Action Plan, and staff report.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Commission. Colby Cataldi, Planning Official for the city. Just to remind everyone here tonight that there is one public hearing item. That is the General Plan Update project. There are 2 supplemental items in the agenda tonight as well. Those are supplemental to that public hearing item, so everything will be considered and taken as one item altogether. We do have a staff presentation here that is a team effort that starts with our city attorney's office, who will go through a number of different things, and there will be a number of technical experts on the city team that will walk through the project elements as well, and we'll wrap it up with the planning portion of the presentation, and then move into obviously a public hearing open to public comments. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to our city attorney's office to start off with the presentation.
Thank you, Colby. So in June 2021, the City Council approved the 2021 General Plan Update along with associated zone text and zoning atlas amendments. And so the purpose of those two actions was to update our 2006 General Plan and to adopt the appropriate amendments to the text of our zoning regulations and our map that represents, which is a map basically of our particular zonings. And so those two have to be consistent. In connection with the approval of the general plan update in 2021 and the text and zoning amendments, the City Council at that time certified a final environmental impact report. Fast forward to October 2021, a CEQA lawsuit was filed against the city by the Sierra Club, and they challenged both the 2021 EIR that was approved in connection with the general plan update and the zone and zoning atlas amendments, and they also challenged the 2021 climate action plan, which is basically a part of the general plan. The climate action plan was the first climate action plan that was adopted by the city because that legislation was new at that time. So there were no climate action plans adopted before that time. After the Sierra Club filed its CEQA lawsuit, the California Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office, intervened in the case. Basically, they jumped on board and also sued the city, and they filed their own independent challenge to the city's approval of both the climate action plan and the environmental impact report. In March 2024, nearly 2 years later, the court ruled on the case and issued a statement of decision. And that statement of decision was a precursor to the final court ruling, which we call a court writ, and that's the actual court order. And the statement of decision basically was an explanation of the court's reasoning underlying its final writ or court order. And so the statement of decision was issued in March 2024, and the final writ was issued in May 2024. The court ruling basically granted the petition, basically ruled in favor of both the Sierra Club and the Attorney General's office. But the court ruling was limited to basically 4 issues. One, the baseline that we use to analyze the existing conditions of the city, and as we compare those existing conditions with the proposed changes in our zoning. The court ruling also zeroed in on air quality issues, climate change, greenhouse gas, which includes greenhouse gas emissions, and energy use. What's significant, however, about the court ruling is that it flatly rejected and denied the Sierra Club's arguments regarding issues of land use analysis and zoning. And that was spelled out not only in the court ruling, but also in the statement of decision. But specifically, with respect to the baseline, the court ruled that the baseline that the city used in analyzing the 2021 general plan update and in the context of the final environmental impact report, the court believed that it failed to describe the 2021 general plan update's environmental impacts as they existed at the time that the notice of preparation with the project was published. I know that's a little bit complicated. Our consultants will kind of get into a little bit more of the details on that issue. With respect to air quality, the court believed that the air quality section of the EIR failed to compare the 2021 general plan updates project's assumed impacts on the 2006 general plan. Again, we'll have a little bit more explanation on what that all means, but basically the court opined that that resulted in understating the impacts of our 2021 general plan update. In regards to energy, the court believed that the energy section failed to compare our 2021 general plan updates environmental impacts against existing conditions, and instead we compared them to assumed impacts under the 2006 general plan. And again, the court believed that that understated the impacts of the 2021 general plan update. And finally, with respect to greenhouse gas emissions, the court believed that we failed to include proper mitigation measures, and instead we had relied on an inadequate 2021 climate action plan that the court believed failed to comply with the requirements of the CEQA guidelines. I know that's all very technical, and it was very complicated to come back and try to remedy those, but I think that over the last year and a half, our consultants have done a very good job in addressing these issues raised by the court. The result of the writ required us to basically set aside the approvals of the 2021 general plan, and so that resulted in us repealing the zoning ordinance and the zone text amendments that were approved in connection with the 2021 general plan. And we also were required to rescind our approval of the environmental impact report that was approved for the 2021 general plan update. I should point out, though, that in response to the court's ruling, we informed the court that our October 2022 housing element remained intact and remains operative. And that housing element is what resulted in the city receiving the very distinguished certification of our housing element that also included in designating us as a pro-housing jurisdiction, which resulted in us being able to attain certain grants for housing. So what does this all mean? Well, this meant that we had to go back to the drawing board to address these issues on the baseline, air quality, energy, and GHG emissions. We were not required to go back and address or reconsider any of our land use zoning or any of our land use policies. Now, just a few housekeeping matters. Again, there's this single item on the agenda that deals with our general plan update and deals with our climate action plan and deals with our environmental impact report. The other items listed on our agenda are basically the two documents that we made public in connection with our conversations we had with the Attorney General's office. As you may recall, the reason why we continued this, we recommended this matter be continued, is because a few days before the public hearing, the last public hearing, we received a laundry list of comments from the Attorney General's office. And in response to that, I had the consultants work on preparing responses. We prepared responses to the comments, which we made public and we brought forward in the context of the last public hearing. So all that was made available for the public to review. They had about as much time as we had to review the comments and the responses. In response to those responses we sent to the Attorney General's office, I recommended to them or suggested to them that we have a follow-up meeting because they sent another response to those, but fortunately the responses that we got to our responses narrowed down a number of the issues. And so we had a meeting with them, was it yesterday? Oh, yesterday, this is all happening so fast. We had a meeting yesterday with the Attorney General's office, and I requested that they have every single attorney in their office that has any concerns about anything that has to do with our environmental impact report, our general plan update, and our climate action plan. And so they had 3 attorneys on board there. And so we were able to discuss our responses to their initial comments that they submitted. And where we are right now is that we submitted the responses, they're taking them under submission, but they reassured us that their concerns have nothing to do with land use issues, nothing to do with our land use policies. Their concerns are primarily focused on climate issues, GHG issues, truck routes, and warehouses. And what they want to look for is whether or not we are willing to make modifications or revisions to mitigation measures that addresses their concerns, which we believe we have done. So they're taking them under submission. And they also clarified that their intent to engaged the city with these issues they raised have nothing to do with the Planning Commission public hearing tonight, and it was not intended to hold up these proceedings. Some other housekeeping matters. There was, Commissioner Zeitz has raised the issue of a potential conflict involving one of the members we had on our General Plan Advisory Committee that was set up a while ago, prior to 2021, to address the general plan update at that time. Allegedly, that particular member of that commission, or was it a commission or committee? Committee, owned the property that a number of residents are opposed to the zoning that was done for that property, that upzoned the property, increased the density to 10 units per acre. We made a determination after researching the matter that there was no potential conflict of interest. I know that may sound astounding to some of us, but that was the conclusion that was reached on that issue. The other issue that so I was also informed that Commissioner Zeitz had contacted a private attorney who he discussed the issue of these proceedings, and apparently that private attorney does not believe that we are doing these proceedings properly. That's his opinion. It is my opinion that we are proceeding as required by the court and as directed by the court. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we have a commissioner who reached out to a private attorney to gather a second opinion, and that is his right to do. So at this point, where we are is that we spent the last nearly year and a half engaged with consulting firms to address. We engaged Kimley Horn, which is a consulting firm that deals with general plans and deals with environmental issues. And so we retained them to assist us on making the corrections that were required by the court with respect to our environmental impact report and in respect to our general plan update. We also engaged the services of Rincon, the Rincon consultants, who specialize in climate action plans. And the reason why we selected them to assist us on revising our climate action plan is because we knew that they have prepared some climate action plans for other jurisdictions, which have passed muster with the California Attorney General's office. And I believe that they both have done an excellent job with respect to making those revisions that I believe comply with the court's order. So tonight, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear a presentation from those consultants that are going to be focused on the changes and the revisions that they made to our general plan update, to our environmental impact report, and to our climate action plan. And so tonight, what we're asking the Planning Commission to do is to consider those items for purposes of making a recommendation to the City Council. So whatever recommendation that the Planning Commission makes tonight will go forward to the City Council. If there's a recommendation made tonight, we anticipate that the public hearing before the City Council will take place November 18th. So that concludes my remarks, and I'm available for any questions, but I would ask that you hear our consultants first before you come up with any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Ms. Heidi Roos from Kimley Horn to discuss the environmental impact report in a bit more detail.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Thank you, and members of the public who came out tonight. So as we said, I'm with Kimley Horn, and we've been working with the city on the revised EIR since shortly after the writ was issued. So the revised EIR contains only those portions of the EIR that were found to be inadequate in the ruling, along with any necessary revisions. So the areas of analysis in the revised EIR are those specifically identified in the ruling, and those are the effects of the build-out of the general plan update on the environmental topics of air quality, energy, and GHG. But along the way, we had to, as the city attorney pointed out, update the baseline, and that meant also evaluating transportation, that being one of the primary sources of emissions of air pollutants and greenhouse gases. So we also updated the transportation and noise sections in the revised EIR. The revised EIR for MoVal 2040 analyzes the effects of the following three elements: the 2024 General Plan Update, the associated zoning text amendments to Title IX, and the Planning Atlas amendments, and thirdly, the 2024 Climate Action Plan. The revised EIR addressed the writ in the following manner. It established firmly and clearly 2024 as the baseline. It evaluated the consistency of the general plan update with the air quality management, with the current air quality management plan. It assessed impacts to sensitive receptors, including potential health impacts from exposure to toxic air contaminants. It analyzed greenhouse gases, providing suitable mitigation measures, and included a mitigation monitoring and reporting program. It incorporated mitigation measures as part of the revised Climate Action Plan, or CAP, to allow its use for tiering for future projects. And lastly, it quantified potential impacts resulting from energy use, again, at the build-out of the general plan update. And I will also be here for questions.
Thank you, Heidi. All right, I'll be taking it from here for a little while. So, and now that we've had a bit of an update on the legal status of the general plan update and the scope of the environmental effort to revise the EIR, I'd like to introduce or remind us of the objective this evening, which is to present the revised draft EIR, reintroduce the draft general plan update, the zoning atlas amendment, and the revised climate action plan. And during the course of this hearing, we look forward to hearing public testimony and allowing the Planning Commission the opportunity to openly discuss the project and issue a recommendation to the council. The general plan is a long-term planning document that seeks to define the vision, values, policy, and development of the city over a time horizon, typically about 20 years. Several elements of the general plan have been updated to reflect not only current conditions and policy direction, but also to comply with recent legislation. The housing element is one of the required elements of the general plan. That was updated and adopted separately from the general plan in 2022. And this is common practice, as the housing element is the only element of the general plan which is required to be updated on a regular interval, in this case an 8-year cycle. Updates to the other elements, such as the safety, environmental justice, and circulation element, reflect changes in recent state law. And the general plan is also evaluated by the Airport Land Use Commission for consistency determination, which has been completed. And finally, the climate action plan is paired with the general plan update to meet state requirements to address greenhouse gas and carbon emission reduction goals. So this portion of the presentation is meant to reintroduce the content of the draft general plan, recap the process, and refamiliarize the commission with some of the key land use concepts and policies that were developed and incorporated into the plan during the 2019 through 2021 plan preparation period. The general plan identifies targeted changes to the land use map, primarily around concept areas and sites that have been reviewed previously with the Planning Commission and City Council. Limited changes were required to obtain that consistency determination from the Airport Land Use Commission. In the initial plan preparation period, there was an effort to develop the general plan with having the community voice in mind, which involved a community engagement campaign. And this consisted of a number of engagement outlets, including community surveys, pop-up events, in-person and virtual workshops, multiple meetings with the General Plan Advisory Committee, a listening session specifically on environmental justice issues, one-on-one interviews with housing provider and developer stakeholders, tribal consultation conducted under AB 52 and SB 18 guidelines, and workshops and meetings with appointed and elected officials. Feedback collected from this engagement campaign was used to brief decision makers and to inform the development of the plan. Through the plan development and the engagement process, 4 primary guiding principles were developed. The general plan seeks to build a dynamic community with a flexible land use framework that supports well-paying jobs for residents. Vibrant gathering places anchored around town centers, gateways, and sports and recreation facilities. Livable neighborhoods that support the development of housing people can afford and that meet the needs of all residents to live safely. And community identity. The goals, policies, and actions within the general plan seek to honor local pride and enhance the sense of place by promoting a live, work, and play culture. The general plan is organized into 11 elements. All of these elements have been updated from the 2006 general plan to be grounded and based on existing conditions, current state law, and reflect the policy direction gathered from community feedback, guidance from the General Plan Advisory Committee, and city decision makers. The downtown center is centered around the Civic Center and Frederick Street corridor. It's generally bounded by Alessandro Boulevard and Towngate Boulevard. This is one of the highlights of the general plan update. It is the highest intensity mixed-use district in Moreno Valley. Its intent is to create Moreno Valley's premier civic, cultural, and economic hub, to be a place that brings together housing, employment, retail, and recreation in a compact, transit-oriented environment. This land use designation anticipates a walkable main street lined with shops, restaurants, workplaces, and cultural venues. Building heights and intensity are greatest at the core and step down towards surrounding neighborhoods. It envisions interconnected grid of streets to replace super blocks to improve pedestrian and bicycle circulation, and the area includes a new central park with recreation, festival, and cultural spaces. The general plan organizes future growth around 3 key ideas: corridors, centers, like the downtown center we just saw, and gateways, each with a distinct role in shaping the city's form and identity. So starting with corridors, main boulevards like Alessandro, Paris, and Sunnymead become complete streets, places for people as well as vehicles. The goal is to revitalize older commercial strips into mixed-use walkable corridors that support housing, retail, and transit, while improving the look and safety of these major routes. For centers, they are the activity hubs of the community, places like the downtown center and neighborhood nodes where housing, jobs, shopping, and civic life can come together. They're designed to be compact, pedestrian-friendly, and vibrant, giving residents local destinations and reducing long car trips. And finally, gateways mark the entry points into Moreno Valley along freeways and arterials. Through coordinated landscaping, signage, and architecture, they create a sense of arrival and strengthen the city's image. And together, corridor centers and gateways focus future investment to revitalize existing areas, improve mobility, and build a stronger sense of place for Moreno Valley. We'd like to highlight some of the other elements in the general plan. With the economic development element, it focuses on building more flexible and resilient local economy. It introduces the Business Flex land use designation and new mixed-use zones called the Community Mixed Use and Center Mixed Use areas. These designations help support job diversity, particularly near or within the airport land use compatibility zones, where maintaining safe and compatible uses is essential. They also strengthen the city's fiscal base by attracting new employers and improving compatibility between logistics, office, and residential development. And finally, the policies in the economic development element encourage the redevelopment of underutilized commercial corridors. Now, the circulation element modernizes the city's transportation approach to meet new state requirements. It implements SB 743, shifting focus from the traditional congestion measures of level of service to reducing vehicle miles traveled. It expands the Complete Streets network, providing safer bike routes, pedestrian facilities, and multimodal connections throughout the community. The circulation also integrates good movements improvements consistent with AB 98 standards. Overall, it enhances access to employment, education, and recreation for residents while improving mobility and safety citywide. And finally, the parks and public services elements. Moreno Valley currently maintains about 492 acres of parkland plus roughly 15 miles of trail. The general plan sets a goal of 3 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents, identifies approximately 68 acres of new parkland, and expands the citywide trail network to 56 miles. And as previewed in the downtown center, there's a plan to prioritize a central park as part of that downtown center. I'd like to take a moment to call up Emily Saul of Rincon Consultants to present the updated climate action plan.
Thanks, Emily. Good evening, commissioners. I am Emily Saul with Rincon Consultants, and I'll be giving a quick overview tonight of the new Climate Action Plan, or CAP. So the CAP is consistent with the General Plan Revised EIR and has been developed to mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions associated with General Plan build-out. It is also consistent with the CEQA guidelines requirements. Altogether, this means that the CAP is an evolving guide to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the community in alignment with state goals. It includes all requirements of the CEQA guidelines, which are listed out on this slide. This means it is based on an inventory of greenhouse gas emissions generated by the community that the city has jurisdictional control over. It forecasts greenhouse gas emissions through 2045, based on growth projections included in the general plan and greenhouse gas reductions from currently adopted state legislation. It also establishes 2030 and 2045 targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in alignment with state goals, and it establishes measures and actions that are backed by substantial evidence to be implemented to meet the 2030 target and make substantial progress towards the 2045 target. And lastly, it establishes a mechanism to both monitor and update the CAP so that it can stay on track with its targets. These future updates will help achieve the 2045 target for carbon neutrality. And the CAP now has 16 beneficial measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There are multiple ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but the CAP identifies measures that are consistent with state guidance and best practices. To give a quick highlight of these measures, they include increasing electric vehicle chargers, increasing safe bikeways, providing flexible public transit services, preserving and planting trees, increasing the use of renewable electricity, and providing the opportunity for CAP-consistent future development to streamline their environmental review. Thank you, and we'll be available for questions as well.
Emily. We're getting close to the end. We're going to talk about the Municipal Code and Zoning Atlas amendment. So we'd like to do our best to summarize the amendments that are being made. These amendments are being made in order to implement the general plan update. So first, the zoning map and Title IX of the Municipal Code have been amended to align with the updated general plan land use designations. And these changes ensure that the zoning is internally consistent with the general plan. One of the major updates is the removal of high-density residential uses within the airport land use compatibility zone. This change ensures that future development near March Air Reserve Base remains compatible with airport safety and noise standards, while also conforming to state and federal aviation guidance. Second, the amendments add residential and mixed-use opportunities to the community mixed-use and center mixed-use districts. These updates allow a combination of housing, retail, and office uses along major corridors and activity centers, supporting the city's goals for infill development, walkability, and housing choice. Third, the Business Flex Zone provides greater flexibility for employment uses while maintaining separation and buffering from nearby neighborhoods. This zone also ensures consistency with the airport land use compatibility zones and regulations and supports a more diverse economic base. Finally, the zoning amendments adjust residential density ranges in select areas to help the city meet its obligations under the 2021-2029 housing element and the regional housing needs assessment. It was brought to staff's attention that there was concern about complete removal of the primary animal keeping overlay. And we'd like to note that the overlay is not proposed for complete removal. However, it is proposed for removal from those sites that are being rezoned to R10. By refining density standards and enabling housing in mixed-use districts, the zoning code directly implements the housing element strategy to accommodate the full range of housing types, income levels, and distribution of housing types required by state law. To conclude, staff would like to acknowledge the professional planning and environmental team that prepared the Moreno Valley 2040 documents. The general plan was originally prepared by Diet and Bhatia, urban regional planners, with technical support from Perrin Peers on transportation, Kaiser Marston Associates on economic analysis, and Urban Field Studio on community design and visualization. The 2024 general plan refinements and revised environmental impact report were prepared by Kimley Horn, and the revised climate action plan prepared by Rincon Consultants. Throughout the process, the consultant team worked closely with city departments, the city manager's office, and all major departments, including community development, public works, police, and fire, contributed to the technical review and refinement of the documents you see before you tonight. With your recommendation to the council, and the Moreno Valley 2040 general plan would do three key things. First, it would bring the city into compliance with state and regional planning requirements. Second, it would reflect long-term aspirations as expressed through the General Plan Advisory Committee, Planning Commission, and City Council. And third, it would provide a clear integrated framework to guide future decisions about land use, housing, mobility, and sustainability. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolutions 2025-14 and 2025-15, recommending that the City Council certify the revised environmental impact report and approve the 2024 general plan update, zoning amendments, and climate action plan. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioner questions for staff? Okay.
More of a comment or question to start with. My inquiry was that I was told several times that there was zoning was not set aside. And I was told flat no. But it was, and there was reasons why it was. It may not have been to change the zoning, but it was set aside. I wish staff would have been a little more informative to tell me, yes, it was, but for this reason, instead of a flat no. Okay, with that being said, the engagement meetings, when were they held? Were they held on this after the writ was done, or were they done before?
Engagement meetings for the development of the plan were held between 2019 and 2021. The general plan has not been significantly revised post-writ. It was just the environmental impact report that received significant revision.
Okay, so that was held during COVID. And to my knowledge, and staff can correct me on this, that some meetings were canceled because of COVID. And we also, unfortunately, in District 2, our council person passed away. So I feel that we did not have adequate representation. I know COVID's been used for a lot of excuses, but I think we should have continued it at that time until we could get by all that and have proper representation. So, eyeballs on here, sorry guys. Question that you already answered, that you guys did have your AG meeting, and that the AG did respond to you verbally, correct?
We're anticipating a response from them, a written response from them.
Okay. When are we getting that? Do you have an idea?
They represented to us that they will have it before our city council public hearing.
Okay, so then you're asking us to make a decision without documentation.
I'm not asking you to make a decision.
What's that?
I'm not asking you to make a decision.
Okay. it is put before us to make a decision without documentation on this yet. Am I
This
wording that
public
correctly?
hearing- this
What I want
public
to
hearing-
basically say is, we don't have all the paperwork yet in front of us to make this decision on things that we continued it for before. Is that correct?
That's up to you.
That's up to me.
That's up to you to decide.
Okay. With that, I'm going to jump into zoning real quick, and then I will come back to the other things later. I was told at our prep meeting, we have a little phone call, by the way. I just asked us if they have any questions. That way we don't blindside anybody. We're not up here to do that. We want to get answers out to the public. When I asked about the zoning at Merino Beach, north of the 60 freeway, I was told that it was done for our, am I using the right term, of REMA, our housing, of our housing numbers. I asked why was it done in this particular area, and I was told that there is a law stating that high density has to be spread out in the city. I would like to see that law so we can verify that. Maybe with it highlighted so we can get a little more information on this. That sounds a little strange to me, but is that a true law? That is my question. Because that's what I was informed.
Oh, yes, I'm looking up the Assembly bill.
Okay, thank you. Basically what it was, I was told no matter of the characteristics, we still had to put it there where we may have had other places that we could have put it that there was already high density. And I just want to make sure that that is the actual law.
I believe it's Government Code 65584.
I understand they're making us do high density, but can they force us where to put it? Have adequate land elsewhere.
Just to clarify, so what Commissioner Zeitz is referring to is affirmatively furthering fair housing. That was a law that was passed in California somewhere between 2018, 2019. Then in 2021, the law was amended to require cities to consider AFFH in the housing element process. So just wanted to provide a little more context on that.
H means what? That way they know, because they don't know what H means and whatever is, you know. if we can
Affirmatively furthering fair housing.
Okay, but you're saying amended to,
To require the cities, municipalities, when they update their housing element, to include provisions regarding affirmatively furthering fair housing.
okay, but that, what you're saying, in affirming that they have the fair housing, isn't telling us where we have to put it. Is that what you're saying?
So I'll chime in.
Okay, yeah, I want a little more explanation on that.
So I was deeply involved in the housing element and ensuring that HCD was willing to certify it because every city must have a certified housing element. The city of Moreno Valley was one of only a few to actually get it done prior to the deadline of the state of California and the Department of Housing and Community Development. The Department of Housing and Community Development, in their review of our housing element, identified that the housing had to be distributed amongst the entire city. HCD was very interested, given the amount of vacant land in the northeast end of our town that was unentitled, to actually increase the density far beyond what city staff has recommended in the general plan, which preserves what was proposed in 2006 and was approved in 2006. The only exception to that is the R10 zoning directly at the freeway on Merino Beach between Ironwood and the 60. That is the only location where R10 was proposed, and staff was able to negotiate that down from R30 as part of the conversations that we had with them over almost a year and a half in order to ensure that we could get a certified housing element. To ultimately rezone this property, or to zone this property away from R10, would mean that the city of Moreno Valley would no longer have a certified housing element. We would not be in compliance with California state law. We would lose grant money. We would lose our pro-housing designation. And ultimately, at that time, the Department of Housing and Community Development and the DOJ would likely enter into a new lawsuit with the city of Moreno Valley, whereby our land use authority would then be stripped from us, and we would be required to ministerially approve any residential density throughout the city. That has happened to other jurisdictions. It is a threat that ultimately all cities are placed under for not having a certified housing element.
I have a question. With that being said, then you're telling, even though you guys are saying that you're not, yeah, I'm getting confused here, because you said that even though the applicant is going to do the R10s and it's going to come before us at a later time.
We're talking about two different, Moreno Meadows is located north of Ironwood.
Oh, I know it's the plan update, but what I got was that it was zoned R10.
Okay, the properties zoned R10 are between State Route 60 and Ironwood on either side of Moreno Beach, as is shown on the screen currently.
Okay, so that.
The parcels that the residents came out regarding this evening, the Moreno Meadows property is located north of Ironwood and is still today zoned R2.
Okay, that's what.
And as part of this general plan, it is still zoned today R2 and PACO.
Okay.
All of that stays the same. We're only talking about a couple of parcels just to the south of Ironwood that ultimately were required of us in order to get our housing element certified.
They were R2 to begin with.
Okay, that's my confusion, and I thought we're talking, all the people were talking about this other parcel, and I was thinking, is that already zoned R10, and that's why they're complaining? Okay, it's
No,
R2.
that's zoned
Okay.
R2. It is nothing associated with the Moreno Meadows project.
Okay,
And any approvals or anything associated with that project are before the Planning Commission this evening.
okay,
The action tonight would maintain the R2 zoning designation and general plan designation from 2006, would maintain it on that property for the 2040 general plan.
okay, I got it.
Can we get that map back up on our screens, please? Thank you.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that the state basically threatened us if we did not change that zoning. With
The city had
sanctions or
to, the
whatever.
city had to find a manner in which to comply with the state regulations.
Okay.
And the comments from HCD required us to locate higher density housing across the entire city of Moreno Valley. Not just at the mall, not just on the south end of town, not just in, the Sunnymead Ranch areas. It was the entire city of Moreno Valley. And when they saw the northeast end of town, we fought, again, the city staff fought very hard to retain that zoning and limit it to this one location. And again, R10 versus what the state was seeking, which was R30.
How far up are we on our housing numbers at this point? Are we adequate? Are we going to be able to carry for the next? I know things change. They like to up numbers on us, the state does. But at this point, number-wise, are we well ahead of what we need to be? Are we right at the borderline? What year do we need to redo this again?
Current state law mandates that the city establish zoning as well as various policies within its housing element, which is not an item on the agenda this evening, because the housing element is still certified, it is still approved. It was not part of any portion of the writ, so it is not under consideration this evening. But that housing element, we were required to establish a set number of units. It was approximately 13,000 units that was mandated to the city of Moreno Valley as part of the Southern California Association of Governments when they assigned the regional housing needs allocation, or what staff has been saying several times tonight, RENA.
And that was done when? When were those numbers brought to us?
Those numbers were established, we had to be in full compliance and have a certified element by October of 2021. The numbers that we received from the state was on or about 2019. And that goes for a period of 8 years. That first year started actually in October of 2020. So we will get a new allocation here within the next 3 years or so, which we will again need to plan for and readopt our housing element and those policies, because it is an 8-year cycle. The RENA is a requirement to plan, not a requirement at this time to construct. Construction is another matter. There is nothing under California state law today that requires all of those units to be built, because ultimately, at the end of the day, just like has already been said, the city reviews development and approves development. We do not build housing. That is not that is not a requirement of the city to do.
Somebody else has questions, I'll let them go.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Let me give you a break. So again, I think, so there is no developer currently seeking to build at that lot, correct? Right now?
The parcels along Moreno Beach?
Yes, the ones that are in discussion.
We have an entitlement application in process for for a portion of those properties.
Okay.
At a density that's actually slightly lower than R10, which is in consideration and is going ultimately through the environmental review process today.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have a question about the community engagement. So was there a community engagement census? Was there a report? I'm really interested in the tribal engagement and what was the consensus on that and their view of it.
So in terms of community engagement, we were required to conduct as part of a general plan, you are required to do community engagement. That was done during the preparation of the original general plan, the 2040, when prior to being certified by the city council and approved by the city council back in 2021. With regard to tribal consultation, there is a mandate under the California Environmental Quality Act to conduct tribal consultation. Given the fact that cultural resources was not a matter that was found by the court to need correction within our CEQA document, there was not a requirement to go back and reconduct new tribal consultation as part of these revisions that we did to our general plan EIR. So we did it back in 2019, 2020, 2021 as part of the original CEQA review and EIR review of the general plan.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
My question is, let's see. So when the housing element was adopted, and so it's reflected what the general plan update is. That's correct? A reflection, like the zoning, the proposed zoning there is reflected in the housing element.
The general plan land use element and the general plan housing element are required to be internally consistent.
Okay.
So with the fact that the housing element is certified to make an amendment today to the land use element, would ultimately result in the decertification of our housing element.
Okay, the second question I have is, it goes to the, I guess I don't know if this is relevant, the lawsuits, city attorney. When the judge made his final his final decision, and he made a decision that there was nothing, he threw out the zoning element of it. He threw out the zoning that the Sierra Club sued. Is that's correct, right?
Correct. He ruled on the legal issues with respect to zoning and land use, that there was no merit to those arguments. So he dispensed of them. Even though we had to repeal the zoning and land use, we weren't directed to go back and make any changes to them when the proposal is to readopt it, basically.
Okay. And another question, Mr. Chair. Also, Mr. Sean, I'm asking you this question. HCD signed off on the zoning for that particular area, the higher density. They signed off on it, right? Is that correct too?
That is a correct statement.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Okay, well, I'll throw one in there. Maybe two. MMRP, mitigation, monitoring, and reporting. Will we be publishing anything annually so that the public is, for transparency, that they'll see that we're being in compliance? Mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program.
The city does have requirements by the state to bring to council an annual progress report as a part of its reporting back to the state and the public of how we're performing and with a number of units, and to make sure that we're consistent with our plan and we are on target for our RENA goals. So in there's various programs that are identified in the housing element, and even other parts of the general plan that the city would report out on annually to make sure that we are compliant and consistent with our own regulatory documents.
Okay. Now, I
Mr. Chair, just so that the public has the benefit of, knowing what we mean by RENA, it's a Regional Housing Needs Assessment. So in Southern California, several counties have created an agency that addresses the need for housing, not just affordable housing, but housing across the board of all income levels. And what this organization does, the Southern California Association of Governments does, is that we are mandated by the state to provide a certain number of housing units, again, at all different income levels. And then they divide that up amongst the various jurisdictions. So we got a number, and that's our number is the number that's assigned to Moreno Valley. So that's what we mean when we speak of RENA. So we have to meet those goals of providing those number of units.
And in my understanding from previous questions is that in respect to density, so that we don't have, and I'm just maybe oversimplifying this, that one area is not previewed to just saying, hey, we got great open space and, R1s or R0s or R2s and everybody else has to deal with R30s. And so we try to spread that density out throughout the city. Is that correct?
Correct. That is the whole purpose behind affirmatively furthering fair housing and the legislation that came from the state, was to ensure that those densities were spread across the city to provide a mixture of housing opportunities across the entire city.
And that's Government Code 65584. I believe that was, right?
Steve, have we confirmed that, sir?
They're trying to track down that letter from HCD that we received in 2022.
Okay.
And here's my major concern. My major concern is this, is because we have four elements that we were looking at, which is baseline air quality, greenhouse, and energy use. those things did go to litigation. And now I'm just going to back up just a little bit here. It maybe I'm oversimplifying this just a little bit, but something goes to litigation, say these things have to be done. My understanding is the city has said, yes, we have done those things. This is our proposed plan. This is where we're at so far. Does that have to go back to the judge and or whoever did this, whatever this and said, yes, these will suffice and these will be met? But if you're doing these things, then
I'll respond, as I believe Steve is still working on the other research. Yes, there is a return on the writ that we will ultimately need to do at the completion of all of these proceedings, be Planning Commission as well as City Council. So the judge does still retain control over the original litigation associated with our general plan.
okay. So my understanding right now is we just have a plan. And our plan is this is our response to meet those 4 areas that were identified. But we don't have, hey, yes, you've done, these things will work, but this would be fine. We don't have that. I mean, I'm like I said, I might be oversimplifying. So I go out and the judge gives me I get a ticket on the street and he says, hey, you need to fix your light.
So,
okay, I fixed
yes.
the light. This is my plan. But then don't I have to take that back and say,
You're ultimately simplifying it to a fix-it ticket effectively, is how I'm interpreting what you're saying, sir. And to your question, that is correct. It is effectively a fix-it ticket that we are, with that oversimplification, yes. We have been given a judgment that says that we need to address 4 specific areas within our CEQA document. And there was additional information associated with that ultimately has been reviewed by our legal counsel, reviewed by our consultants, reviewed by staff, to ensure that those things that the court ultimately found at the end, that the judge found and identified, have been adequately addressed. That's what the city staff over the past 18 or so months have been working on since receiving that writ, is ensuring that the revised environmental document is updated in such a manner in which it addresses that. Additionally, there were some concerns related to our cap, which is ultimately why we brought on Rincon Consulting to help us prepare a new cap based off of the direction of the judge, as well as information that we received from the Attorney General's office as well, who was ultimately part of the litigation against, who did intervene in the litigation against the city of Moreno Valley. So that's why we brought that on as well. The last thing, and the reason why staff did mention that there have been a few minor modifications to various elements within the general plan, is that, as everybody knows, every year or every 2 years, thousands of pieces of legislation are brought forward by our state legislature, and over the intervening time of those each year, new pieces of legislation come into play, and when you amend a certain section of your general plan, there may be new legislation. When you readopt something, you have to implement those new provisions, whatever they may be. Some are relatively minor, others are not. And ultimately, in order to ensure that we maintain compliance with with all of the codes that have been adopted since 2021 up till now, city staff made sure, as well as, again, legal counsel and our consultants, that we did a thorough review of all new legislation to ensure that it was properly incorporated into our general plan, given that we are going through this readoption process.
Okay, before we get a judgment by the court, we can't go forward with the general plan. That's my understanding?
No.
No, we can't go forward, or no, we can?
We can go forward.
We can go
yes.
forward with the general plan, even though we don't get a favorable decision?
No, the court ordered us to go back and remedy the deficiencies in the general plan and the EIR. That's the process we're going through now. So once the city council takes final action on it, we report back to the court, and the court will determine whether or not we complied with the court
Okay,
order.
and what if we don't comply? Then does it come back to us or does
They come back.
So then it's gonna come back to us again.
It may be ordered to bring it back.
My thing is why don't we wait until that happens before we even say? I mean, to me, if that were me and it was my court case, I'd want to know that I'm free and clear and I can build my house and do whatever I need to do before I
We
keep
have to,
going back and forth.
we have to take action to report back to the court what we did.
Right.
So the court's waiting for us.
So we have to say yes so we can go to the court? Or is it gonna go to the court anyway?
Yeah, we have to go back to the court and show the court what we did.
Right.
To remedy the situation.
That doesn't mean that we have to,
We have to approve something.
or we have to.
Have to,
approve.
yes.
Or it's
One
not
way or
gonna
the
go
other.
to the court.
Yeah. The court ordered us to go back, remedy the general plan and the EIR, and to come back and show what we approved.
Okay, so we have to do it so they can review it, and then if it doesn't pass, then
They
it
may
comes
tell us
back.
to go back and do it again.
Yeah, just like we got that paper that said, hey, wait a minute, and then we ended up continuing it 2 weeks.
We,
That's the department, that's the Attorney General's office.
Right.
That's different from the courts.
so ultimately, what they're asking of the city council, or what they're asking of the city as a whole, is to take a final action. They are not interested in our quote-unquote draft document, which is effectively what everything is this evening. They want to see our final paper, which is ultimately what needs to be acted upon and approved at the end of the day by the city council.
I do have a clarification. So what we're voting on tonight and what the residents are concerned about is something that could potentially happen, not something that has happened already, correct? They're concerned that there's a potential for a developer to come in and build houses or build homes or whatever. That has not happened yet. That's not on the table. But that could potentially happen is what they're more or less concerned about. Correct?
Yeah, right now, there is a project that's coming through the process. That's
It's-
the Merino Metals project.
But you said there's an entitlement right now. There's an application coming, going through the ranks to come forward as an applicant, but that hasn't happened yet.
That has not happened yet. That has
Okay,
not been
so-
brought to this commission. The notice of preparation was, there was a scoping meeting. That's how the public knows about this
Okay,
particular
so-
project, but that's coming through the process.
What we're voting on tonight is basically the general plan, itself. The R10, which could have potentially been an R30, which is worse and we have negotiated that R10 down a little bit with the entitlement application that's coming forward, correct? So the residents are more or less concerned about what could potentially happen with this parcel if it's,
The R10 parcel's different from the Merino Metals project.
okay,
That's a,
okay. Okay.
Right, got it, okay. Are there any other questions for staff?
So what you're bringing to us tonight is and let me make sure I get the everything correct here, is we had the last meeting delayed because we had not heard back from the Attorney General on our responses on the letter of October 7th? Or was it because there was not adequate time for us to review those responses?
no, the initial letter that we got from the Attorney General's office, we just thought, we really didn't even, we didn't even really have time to respond to it. So we gave them a quick response. And then we told them we're going to submit further responses with specific changes to the mitigation measures. So following that first initial response, we followed up with a more detailed response. That's what we met on.
Okay, and then in that meeting, the indication, did they give you any indication which way they were gonna go with their answers, whether they liked them or
No,
didn't like them?
we wanted to confirm with this. Does this have anything to do with zoning and land use? They said, no. I said, oh, okay, we just want to clarify that for the record. Is this intended to hold up our planning commission proceedings? No. We'll get you a response on these mitigation measures, and we'll get them before your city council public hearing.
Okay, so then basically what's being put forth to us is to vote on this general plan, and we're still waiting for answers from the AG on questions that were put to them.
So I just wanted to make a little bit more clarification.
that's what I'm-
You're being asked to make a recommendation to the city council. The Attorney General's office was very specific that they submitted the comment letter of October 7th regarding the environmental. Ultimately, it is the city council who approves the final environmental document.
Understanding that, but then the AG is the one that sued us, and we kind of have to make them happy, correct?
Just to add a
They're
little.
never going to be happy.
But to add a little.
Well, I fully understand that. But what I don't feel comfortable pushing something or recommending something before we get all the facts back in.
Do we have questions for staff?
So, I don't have a question, but I would make a motion at this time that we
We're not in
delay
the motion
this.
phase. We're not in deliberations. Do we have questions of staff after their staff report?
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
I'm gonna ask, do we have
Can
any
this
other
be
commissioner
continued
questions?
until we get that
Do
information?
we have any other commissioner questions? for
Okay,
staff?
I just asked one.
Regarding,
we
regarding the
continue-
staff report.
Can we continue this until we get all the information back to us?
That's up to a majority of the commission.
Do we have any other commissioner questions for staff?
I have a question. This is directed about the rezoning of the high-density areas. Now, the requirement for those, they would have to have a plan, or the developer would have to put those infrastructure in. Is that correct? About the rezoning from a low density to a high density for the property I'm looking at, like on the City of Moreno Valley zoning act is Atlas 50. Now, I know when we picked it, do they have to have the infrastructure there or have a plan for the infrastructure? Meaning,
Ultimately, in order for the project for any of these development projects to work, they will have to install the appropriate infrastructure, whether that's water, sewer, electricity, whatever it may be. There will be there'll be, likely road expansion requirements. There will be numerous items that would be conditioned upon any new entitlement for development, just like any other project that this planning commission sees, whether it is a new, it's a new daycare center, or it is a single-family home, or an apartment, or a new, commercial business, whatever it may be, they are required ultimately to construct various improvements that are both public improvements as well as infrastructure improvements in order to service their project if those services aren't already in place at the time that they construct.
okay, so, all right. So, yeah, that basically was my question. Thank you.
Do we have any other commissioner questions for staff? Okay, my suggestion would be at this time, we take a short recess. Some folks do need to use the restrooms and stuff like that, and we shall reconvene no later than 8:10. All right, looks like, looks like everybody's back in place. I'd like to reconvene the Planning Commission meeting at, looks like 8:11 p.m. And it looks like we'll now open the public hearing, and again, at 8:11. At this, no, wait, hang on, I'm sorry, hang on. Would the applicant like this? There's no applicant. No. I have a script, I go by the script and they say, okay, da. All right, so let's move into public comments, and the clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Yeah, it usually does. It does.
Yes, Chair, we do have commenters.
Okay. Usually I have a little commentary here, and again, each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and please direct your questions to the chairperson of the commission and no other person or members of the public. If you do want to speak, please fill out a speaker form at the by the door. They're available at the door, and submit the form to the secretary prior to the end of this public testimony. Please remember that to be courteous to one another. I know that this can be a item that does touch our hearts and our souls, but remember that we're all here to work together in Moreno Valley to come to a common goal. And also, I'd like to add this. Remember that the commission, the city council, the planning commission, we are governed by some laws and provision. One is the Brown Act. We have the Roberts rules that tell us exactly how we're supposed to run we don't make those rules up. Okay, so sometimes they may look at me or look at anyone else here saying, hey, you know what, you didn't do me right. No, I'm sorry, but we follow those rules again. And the city does give us this to say, let's stay on track to make sure that we do follow the rules that are been governed for us so that we can conduct the meeting accordingly. So it's not personal. All right, so at this time, let's make sure the public comment section is open, and the clerk is going to call upon each person who has requested to speak. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Chair, we have speakers. Our first speaker is Joe Lockhart, followed by Kathy Luzzi, and followed by Christy Horn. Just one moment. Our next speaker would be Christy Horn, followed by Linda Castellano and Jennifer Cordova.
Hi, thank you for listening to us tonight. After listening to everything, I've been a member, a neighbor of all of you guys. If you live in Moreno Valley for 38 years. I've taught in Moreno Valley for 36 years. I'll be really quick. And basically, I just want to say vote no until you have all your documents together with the Attorney General and to make sure you have everything correct. Listening tonight, I didn't even know about this, but all this community involvement in 2021 that they were talking about. 2021, I was teaching from my kitchen table, so everything was on lockdown, so I don't know how we could have been involved with some of the things that were talked about tonight previously about the 2021 community involvement. But I'm just asking that you vote no to this general plan, to the R10. I know you're talking about different kinds of housing, and there's not a lot of R2 housing for people that want to live in bigger lots. We're all worried about the people that want to live in a dense community, and we need to look at the ones that want to go to R2 that have the bigger communities. So thank you for thinking and considering it tonight.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Linda Castellano, followed by Jennifer Cordova, and then followed by April Rankin.
Hi, I'm just going to be quick. I'm just asking you to please vote no, or at least to postpone it until you have all of the documentation. Thanks.
Next is Jennifer Cordova, followed by April Rankin, then followed by Lindsay Robinson.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Cordova. My head is spinning. What I had planned to talk about, I don't know. I'm against the high density. Please vote no. And if my understanding is correct from what was said previously, if there are mitigations that need to be done by a potential builder, those have to be done before the houses would start. Is that correct? You know, my biggest thing would be, of course, traffic. You know, Ironwood would need to be widened. Ideally, the 60 would need another lane, and I don't know if that's under some kind of a state umbrella, but there's just a lot to consider. And please make your decision carefully and with all the information that you could possibly have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is April Rankin, followed by Lindsay Robinson, who is then followed by Walter Duffy.
Do I just start now? Time starts now. I just, first of all, want to thank you all for your questions. They really opened up my mind on some of these things. I would ask that you vote no today, or at least postpone it until you have all the information, because that, I think, is how the land and zoning area got did not get considered in the Sierra Club suit, because I think that probably on our part, as the community, that was not written up to show that there are things that are in that area that you're talking about. In the land, there is this deep cavern. I believe it's from earthquake, and it seems like it's getting bigger every day. It's just huge. And there's a lot of things with that land that is not going to be safe. And I think that for the people in Sacramento who are looking at the land and going, oh, Moreno Valley has a lot of open land for this. We do, but we don't, and we need to explain that to them. They don't live here. We need to let them know, well, we can't have high density in that area because there's a lot of tribal issues going on that are very close. We have the animal issues. We have a lot of issues that other places do not have that may have open areas like that. We have to be able to write that down, make it in the report to convey that to the people who are making the laws that are saying that we have to have high density throughout Moreno Valley. No, we don't. If it can't be there, it can't be there. No one is going to sit and want to buy small little places with little add-ons or whatever when they can't even afford the fire insurance that's going to be on them. They're not going to be able to even afford the house because the fire insurance is probably going to be more than the house at some point. So I want you to consider the idea that, the Sierra Club missed on some things, but I think that was because maybe those were not all put into the actual report of what are some issues of why we need to have certain things a certain way, which if we go back to the whole infrastructure, we cannot add high density when we haven't solved the problems that we already have now. I had a child who graduated from Valley High School in 2008. The graduation class was like 300 and something, okay? I had my son who graduated in 2023. The class was 434 or more. We sat there for like hours. My daughter just graduated in 25, over 565, I believe, people, high school graduates. They just built a 2-story place over at Valley View, and they still didn't have enough room for all the students that were coming in. They had to open up more classes and hire people and restructure everybody's schedule, like in September when the kids had already gotten used to their teachers and their classmates. That is putting the cart before the horse. We really want to look at, and you are all the gatekeepers. We want to look at, let's not just plan for tomorrow to get the.
Thank you.
Next is Lindsay Robinson, followed by Walter Duffy, who's then followed by Mitchell White.
Good evening again. I hope you've all read all of the papers that you've already received. The 2021 during COVID, general plan update was a farce. It was led by Ito Benzivi and Nelson Chung, Gutierrez's top donors. And anything Ito's involved in, Ito gets what he wants. Chung owns 6 of the parcels along Moreno Beach, and you're telling me there's no conflict of interest? Come on. He's going to make a mint if you change it to R10. The PACO was eliminated in our municipal code. 9.07.08 was X'd out during 2024 and 2021 general plan update. Yet general plans are supposed to protect our community character, which they're destroying with R10 and commercial north of the freeway. 2024 says they did a general plan update, but there were no public meetings like they were required. They also didn't protect our community character, but they made zone chaining south of the freeway, coming up with new categories that some of them are removing high-density housing in favor of commercial. Okay, come on, you could have changed north of the freeway, put us back to office in R2. High-density housing and horses don't mix, so basically you're telling the horse owners, get out of the city, we're done with you, and that's not right. We've exceeded our housing element with Ito's 15,000 market rate and the mall and the town center. We don't need to keep building more houses. We're probably good through 2040, regardless of what the staff have said. The downtown was already planned. Back when Rick Sansemeyer was here, we had many public meetings where we designed the town centers. So to put this on there when it's already designed made no sense. Same with the mall. And then Sean Kelleher told me, oh, it's not a full city general plan update. It's just the corridor, which means just to screw the Northeast. So we need to stop that. Your EIR is still severely flawed. They didn't take into account the cumulative effect of the WLC negative impacts on those of us that live up there. There's a lot of severe negative impacts that didn't count. They also have very biased data because they didn't give you noise, transportation, and air pollution on the streets most affected south of Ironwood on either side of Moreno Beach. Pettit, Oliver, Darlene, Mary, Hemlock, White Sands, Fenimore, they're all going to be heavily affected. And if you look at the papers that we saw, their streets weren't analyzed. So it's very biased EIR. We're just going to continue to have more lawsuits. So please vote no and save the Northeast like you are required to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Walter Duffy, followed by Mitchell White, who is then followed by Brett Kimball.
Good evening. I'm a Los Angeles resident. I moved here in 1989. And the reason I moved here with my family and 3 sons is to get from a high density area in South Central Los Angeles where I can spread out, which I found here on the northeast end of Moreno Valley. And obviously all these years, my kids have gone on and done well. The question I have to the Planning Commission is, in 2021, the high density, you approved 18,000 high density residencies for the city of Moreno Valley. The question is, those were planned, but where were you going to put them? It seems like you want to put a lot of those right in the areas that we're talking about north of the 60 freeway and Moreno Beach Drive, south of Ironwood. The other day on a errand for women with my wife, I just drove over around Moreno Valley and seen all the houses they're building on Ironwood and the areas that, and just the impact that they're making on traffic. You used to be able to drive around Moreno Valley and you get stuck. Even when you drive down Moreno Beach Drive, now past Ironwood, and you're at the stoplight, you have to back up because now the trucks have an alternate route that they take that you have to back up so they can make that turn. So you're part of the planning committee, planning commission. I don't know if that was in the plans. You made that big, huge overpass and Merino Beach Drive that comes to a bottleneck. And now, when you get to Ironwood, it's an absolute mess. Thank goodness I'm retired and don't have to fight that just to get to the 60 freeway. I would hope that you would consider it and vote no, and that you have a continuance so that we can get all the information you need to get before you vote. Have everything you need before you vote on what's right for the city of LA. We got enough high density. I mean, there's high density all over the place that they're building all these houses. Used to be able to walk to Walmart on Merino Beach. There was nothing there. Now, now look at it. Now you're going to add the Meadows plus this area for R10. It's going to be ridiculous. It might take an hour to get to the 60 freeway. So I ask that your planning commission consider all the plans, because obviously the plan wasn't thought, yeah, we got this overpass from Merino Beach Drive, but it goes to 2 lanes. Now that's not.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mitchell White, followed by Britt Kimball, who is followed by Sean Fortine.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of East for Moreno Valley, and I'm recommending against the proposed plan update because of the flawed EIR, and I urge you to vote no on that, please, if you would. Also, I would like to retain the 2006 zoning of R1, R2 for all that area on either side of Moreno Beach, north of the 60 and beyond, north of Ironwood as well, to eliminate that development for the 555 homes or whatever it is up there. We don't need it. We don't want it. It's a huge problem for the neighbors in maintaining the continuity of what we have currently in that area. We don't want it, and please vote against all of that. Thank you very much.
Next is Britt Kimball, followed by Sean Fortine, and followed by Marcia Narag.
Brett Kimball. Sean.
Sean Fortine.
First thing is that the 2021 general plan was the public commenting on that was a farce because then Mayor Gutierrez used the COVID as an excuse to avoid public comments. He only allowed a few people that he personally picked to call in. As far as a new plan, I'm kind of worried about the overlay zones. Basically, you don't need instant pop-up overnight ghettos, but it's quite bluntly, not everyone that would be coming there is well suited to benefit the community and we'll be quite blunt about that. The problem with the residential, the business flex zones and the residential mixed use is that they mentioned putting lots of little apartments on top of little service jobs. They talk about traffic mitigation, lots of pedestrian areas. Basically, it's Agenda 2030 walkable cities in a nutshell, and it's really not good for economic mobility or physical mobility to travel around outside the city. Basically, it's you look at some of the ways they've got things built. It's basically you'll own nothing and be happy in a nutshell. Where was I? I agree with having some more pedestrian-oriented apartments. I mean, it's going to be good for disabled people that don't have access to a driver's license. But as you can tell from what people are saying about traffic, that there's still going to be a huge demand for cars. So that you're still going to need to have it regular. It still needs. I'll forget that part. But for the climate, the city really needs to focus on the people. Sacramento is just trying to screw us all over. I hope that you guys will say no to this and fight Sacramento so that to do whatever is necessary for the well-being of the city. And Sacramento is plenty good at taking care of their own interests. So just please look after ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Marcia Narag, followed by Christopher Baca, who is followed by Denise Indermoenle.
Hi, I'm Marcia Narag, and I just have been blindsided by this new general plan update. There was no reason that you shouldn't have brought the update to the citizens of the city, so that we could review it before just saying, okay, we're going to forward it on to the city council for approval. There are exceptions to every rule. The R10 at Merino Beach should be an exception, and it should be contested with the state for having that be our multi-use or multi-housing area. There's environmental reasons. The 2 quakes right there, and then there's a third one over off of Redlands Boulevard, the San Jacinto. One of the quakes at Merino Beach has been active since I have lived there. That's a high hazardous zone for quakes, for floods, and for fire. High density should not be in a highly hazardous area like that, and the exceptions can be requested through the different processes. So there's no excuse for us to have to even think about having R10 there. We need to have our city stick up for us and what we want. It's going to destroy the atmosphere of the whole neighborhood by having that congestion right there at the freeway. There is no reason that we can't contest that, and there is no reason that this should be forwarded as the housing part of our update to City Hall until that has been addressed and dealt with by the citizens of the area. So please vote no, have it go back to the citizens to review the zoning, because it's abhorrent to have that there. And please listen to your citizens. I don't feel like I've had a voice, and I've been at these meetings for decades. So thank you for your attention, and please hear me. Planning, planning, planning. I heard that at the first meeting I ever went to. I'm hearing it again here. You can't hear us how we want our community and how it should be a safe one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Christopher Baca, followed by Denise Indermoenle, who's then followed by Jack Ergish.
Good evening again. I forgot to mention earlier that my comments are my own personal comments and do not reflect the views of anybody other than me, myself, and I. It's overlooking the presentation. It's like we're living in alternate realities of the facts that are actually occurring in our city and what is being presented. It doesn't sound like there's any community participation. There's no regard for the community's concerns about the traffic, about the environment, about everything. In my opinion, this goes straight back to the same old that I've been talking about, special interests. This is all about special interests, and this has nothing to do other than insisting on putting that there so that other developments can tap into that infrastructure that they claim, a certain individual that's been claiming that they are forcing or requiring other developers to put in, but yet they are required to put it in, such as the cut through on Eucalyptus, a roundabout on Redlands, Alessandro going through to Gilman Springs and so forth, the infrastructure for the utilities being put in by Aquabella and so forth. That is all being paid for by the city and not the developer. And if it is being paid for the developer, they are being given credits toward future tax revenue or so forth. So it's a bunch of BS as far as what the city is proposing. This is totally unnecessary. There's no community involvement. You're talking about meetings that happened during COVID. That's a shame that you continue pushing this through when the community does not want this. There's no need for it. If you want to satisfy the housing needs there, you have all of Edgemont, you have all those empty spaces along that need to be infilled along Paris and Sunnymead. That is just an eyesore for the city, where you can put nice apartment buildings there, where you can put high density and low income. That's where it should be. It's just, it's mind-boggling how you present this alternate reality when the fact is that the community doesn't want it, and this is all about special interests, particularly like Lindsay Robinson had mentioned, you are catering to Highland Fairview and Edo's needs, and there is nothing you can do to change anybody's mind. Everybody knows this, and shame on you.
Thank you.
Next is Denise Indermuele, followed by Jack Ergish.
You're getting there. Denise Indermule. Hi again. I wasn't going to speak this time, but sitting here listening to all this, I couldn't resist. So I have some questions. One is, how many acres are we looking at where we have to put the small houses in? And number two, with this RENA grant we have, are not large lots in there? Where else do we have large lots in Moreno Valley? Don't we have to have them somewhere too? Not just the smaller houses, okay, or the smaller lot sizes? And then once again, where you're talking about putting them is kitty corner from Moreno Meadows, right next to my house. It's no further. So the same thing we all said earlier, it's the same thing. It's kitty corner. It's all in that one little area. Please get all the facts, get all the information before you vote on this. There's no reason to rush. You have time, okay? And please consider all the citizens of that northeast area and why we moved there and why we stay in Moreno Valley. And once again, I want to thank you guys. I know this job is not fun. I've been on a few boards. So I totally appreciate your time and the fact that you listen to all us say the same thing over and over again. We really appreciate it. And so I hope you guys all take it to heart, though. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next is Jack Ergish.
Yes, I'd like to agree with everything she said, except I think that the Moreno Meadows is actually right across the street from this R10. At least some of it is. One of the issues I have is you're proposing an R10 right next to an R2. Now, can you imagine what it feels like to have your R2 house and have right across the street an R10? The value of that house just plummeted. I don't see how it's going to work out. The R10 area and the Meadows, it's the same owner, isn't it? So once you approve this R10, you're going to get infrastructure, like they said. You're going to get the sewer, you're going to get the water, and as soon as that's built, they're going to approve the Meadows because there's no reason not to. You got sewer, you got water, you got all the utilities you need. There's water course running right through this property. I don't know what they planned. The Meadows didn't show any improvements like a channel or a storm drain. And I imagine they're gonna do the same thing in the R10 area. The one last thing is, what happens if you vote no? You don't have to approve this. You go back to the drawing board, so what? So what? Maybe it goes up to the city, the council. We could vote for those guys. We don't vote for you, I don't think. So, you know, who are you accountable to? Me? I can't vote for you out of this position, but if you vote for this, don't think about going to the next level. So, anyway, yeah, vote no and bring it back again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
We have no more speaker cards, sir.
All right. If there's no more speakers, then it looks like we're gonna close the public testimony at 8:42 p.m. and move on into deliberations or motion. Let me see. I had a couple of questions here. Okay. All right. This is more clarification, and I don't even know if I can ask a question because we're not in the phase. But this is my understanding. So we had the general plan update. There was a lawsuit. The lawsuit asked us to make revisions to 4 areas, and those 4 areas was because of the baseline air quality, greenhouse GHG, and the cap or energy. And in that, my understanding through the staff report and questions is that zoning and land use was not inside of that lawsuit. That's my understanding. Okay, now with that being said, my understanding is once the lawsuit happens, the city was asked to make revisions. The revisions have now come forward to planning. Those now that planning says either yes or no, then it goes to city council. And at that point, that's when the AG looks at it. That's my understanding, is that the revisions, and I don't know if I'm correct or not, cannot be sent to the AG prior, and I'm gonna back up. Let me stop completely. Because I know in our seating are a couple of teachers, and they may have gone through, there's some things that we do. We have to affirm something first. We cannot say, here's a draft. The reason why is because a draft can be changed. And if we send a draft forward first, and they say, yeah, this is great, we can come back and change that draft. And he's already signed off on it. So when we do some meetings, we say, okay, wait a second, this is what our plan is. We're going to certify this plan. After that certification takes place, now we sign it. We don't sign the draft, okay, because a draft can be changed. It has to be locked up, it has to be sealed up, and it has to be saying, hey, guess what? This is what we're actually doing. Then we sign that or we don't sign it. So my understanding is this, that we have to go through this process. Yeah, we can say no. We can absolutely say no. We can say yes. That's still going to go to the city council. City council is going to then turn around and make a final decision, yes or no. And from there, it goes to the AG, and then the AG is going to say, hey, wait a second, let me make a decision on it. Now, my also understanding is this, is that in any lawsuit, there's a petitioner and a respondent. When that happens, that decision is probably not going to be made without both parties present. Whoever put the lawsuit forward is going to be present, and the respondent is going to be present at that point. When that happens, some points can be brought up at that point before the AG makes that decision. That's how I understand every court case to work. You don't make these decisions without both parties being present. And before that happens, then they're going to put in their information and saying, hey, as a petitioner, this is what I think. The EIR is still not solid. It doesn't work. These are my reasons why this doesn't work. And the respondents are going to say, hey, we fixed the holes that were supposed to be. And then the AG then is going to say, okay, yes or no. Then we'll
Chair,
start all over.
Chair, if I might, the AG is the petitioner.
Petitioner, correct.
So
And the
it would be
respondent is the city.
Is city.
Correct.
So ultimately it would be the judge
That's going to make,
that will be making it, not
not the AG.
not the AG. Just
So you
want
have
to
the
clarify.
AG, you have the city, you have the judge.
Yep.
And before that final decision makes place, my understanding would be the AG would be there, the city would be there, and the judge. I think that's, and I'm sorry, I was saying that the wrong way. Not prior. And again, I can't come up with a plan and then sign off on a plan. I have to sign off on a final. That's just my understanding of it. And I'm just saying a few things. I hear what's going on because I remember the general plan update for 2024. I was there. And just to clear some things out, Nelson Chung did not run that thing. Neither did Ito Benzivi wasn't there. I was actually the chair of the 2024 general plan update. If anybody ran it, it was me. Oh yeah, 2021 for the 2040 general plan update. I was the chair for that. And there were a couple of commissioners that were on that as well. And we just went through that process. And I do understand that because it was COVID during that time, and I do understand that, yes, the city still followed every rule that they were supposed to. They put out the process, hey, show up. Then we ended up going to Zooms. Those processes are still up. And I hear what she's saying. Hey, we were sitting in our home teaching classes. I understand that. But I don't think we had any meetings that didn't take place after 5 or 6 p.m. There were no 2 o'clock meetings, no 1 o'clock meetings during the middle of the day, because I wouldn't have been able to go because I would be working. And you're right, there was very little community input at that time, and I get that because of COVID. I did ask this question because my general thought was, because of those extenuating circumstances, what would be the feasibility of let's just do this thing all over again, where you can hear, and we can hear from all stakeholders involved. And I did get an answer. So I have reservations, I absolutely do, but I understand this, that ours is just a recommendation to say this. The city has said that this is our response to what the petitioner says we need to do. This is our response. Here's our plan. That plan says that we met, this is what we think is that we met everything. He says, hey, I want you to do ABC. We go out and do ABC. And then on the next section, we do CDF. We did CDF. And we're going to take that plan and say, and he's going to either look at it and say, yes, you did it, or no, you didn't. That's my understanding. I'm still waiting to hear from other commissioners before I actually, my thought process is this. If we say no, the city's going to turn around and say, well, if we say no, guess what? We're going to say ABC, and we're going to go through the process so that way the judge can say yes or no. Even if we say no, this is not going away. No does not stop this. It's going to push it to another date. And we send a draft up and the judge doesn't want to look at a draft, we're still here at square one. So we have to go through the process to say, either we dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and so the judge can look at it and say, no, you didn't. No, we're not approving anything. Because my understanding is that a judge still has to look at this. Because it is a lawsuit. We cannot supersede a lawsuit. Let me say that one more time. We cannot supersede a lawsuit. I wish I could and say, hey, man, your fix-it tickets is fine. You can go on about your business. We can't do that. The judge has to be able to say that the city met those conditions. That's my understanding.
Well, when I'm up here and we'll have an agenda item, and oftentimes people don't show up, they don't have anything to say. But when you have this amount of residents show up and voicing concerns, that is concerning to me. Whatever the ramifications of it being, I get that, and staff has put a lot of hard work into this, but I'm truly concerned about the residents, and I know why they're concerned about their R2s, and they want to keep their neighborhood the way that they want to keep their neighborhood. However, I will say this. When you are in a rural area, when there is a general plan, you have to at some point know that there may or may not be construction around your area. You may not like it, but if that's what the general plan is, and if that's what it's zoned for, most likely that's going to happen. However, I do believe in civic participation, and I do believe that things can be changed. So my concern is that these residents that showed up tonight, they're showing up with evidence. They're showing up with backup to what they're saying, and each one of them that came up here said, long history of what's been going on in their area. It wasn't just that they said, we just don't want it here. It was why it was. So that's just my concern. Because, normally, I know staff knows what they're doing, but I'm just a little bit conflicted about that.
I did have one more, really quick. So I want to look at the process. I kept looking into this and calling city folks and saying, hey, how much land, is out there that's free? And I looked and they said, there isn't any land that nobody owns that's just land, that's just out there. People own that land. So you got an empty lot that's out there, and I come along and say, ooh, I'd like to buy that lot. And they buy the lot. And so now they put up their house, they get loans, they do whatever they have to do, and then they make a plan and say, hey, I want to build on this land. The same way we built on that land when we bought our homes. Then they have to take that plan to the city and say, this is my plan. And guess what? They have a right to a hearing. We can't say no to them prior to a hearing because they have the right to due process. I hear what you're saying. I really, really do. I hear what you're saying, but they have the right to due process. And we can say no at that point if that happened to come around, if we have the actual findings. Now, the Planning Commission and, believe it or not, the City Council also have to follow certain rules, and we have to have findings to say why that project cannot be put forward. But they have a right. Here's the other thing that I hear two sides. I hear two sides. Yes, I've been in Moreno Valley for 54 years. I moved out here in 69. I'm a little older than I look. I'm handsome, I get that. But I'm older than I look. And like I said, 69, so that's 50 some odd years out here. And I remember out there when there was nothing, and we went to the base and we went out there and we talked to people, we rode horses. It was fantastic. Absolutely. And then there was a ton of orange groves everywhere. And I hear folks say that we want to keep it that, but for those of you, I know, remember we didn't have a street light at all. We had a stop sign on Heacock and Sunnymead. That was the only stop sign we had. And then finally that turned into a light. And then before you know it, the second light. Before you know it, orange groves started coming down and change started to happen. And I understand that there's planning commissions way before me and way before that, but change did happen. I wish that I could buy my plot of land, build my house the way I wanted to, and then tell somebody else what they can and cannot do with that piece of land. I wish I can do that. I wish I can look across the street and tell my neighbor, no, you can't do that because I don't want to see that. That would be great. And tell my two next door neighbors, you can't do that because it doesn't look like mine. I wish I can do that. I can't do that. I'm in an association, yeah, I can, you're right. I would have to vote yes or no and say, but guess what? They're ultimately, if they follow the architectural plan, they're going to get approved. That isn't an association. You get your neighbors to sign off, but if they follow the architectural plan, they're gonna get approved. That's how it goes. So I understand what we're talking about in R10s. I understand what we're talking about. Nobody wants the high density next to their home. I hear you there. Believe it or not, I don't listen to rap music, and I don't want to hear it out loud next to my neighbor. My neighbor plays it. If he plays it past 10 and he's breaking the zone, then I'm gonna have an issue with that because he's breaking a law or a zone. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I might have more later, but hey, I mean, I wish I could tell my neighbors, hey, great, you bought the land, but you can't do unless I approve it. I wish I could do that.
You know, I know the city worked very hard on this new general plan, and I feel like the rest of the city has gotten missed, and we're really just focusing on those 2 plots. In 1990, I was going into my freshman year of high school. My parents bought a house right there on the corner of Ironwood and Nason. As a matter of fact, my neighbor is here, and I don't know if she remembers me. She spoke earlier, where I grew up. And I remember back then, since it must have been every year or two, I'd have people knocking on my door to petition anything to be built on those exact same corners. I remember 25 years ago, I think they were proposing a water park or something like that. And they petitioned. And again, every other year they petitioned. But one thing you have to realize is we don't have a water park. And people want R2 housing. You know, I'm also a representative for the Carpenters Union, and we have a market analysis in the entire Inland Empire. And I would tell you that no one is building R2. No developer is building R2. Oh.
We're in the stage of deliberation,
Correct.
so this is reserved for deliberation
Yes,
amongst
I'm
the
not going to
planning
respond to
commissioners.
them. So they are rare. I mean, I haven't seen anything. The last time I seen some R2s, I think, is in Harupa Valley, and that was years ago. So we should be glad that, number one, that these are not R30s. And what we got to remember is an R10 doesn't have to be built an R10. Typically, what we've seen on R10s are R7s, R6. Their houses, 6,000 square foot lots. They are small lots. Low income, they're not. They are not low income. These are $500,000 to $600,000 homes on these exact same areas. So these developers are not building low income housing anywhere for this area. So to me, I understand the frustration, but that corner, Ironwood and Myrtle Beach, the reason why the bridge is so wide is because it's gonna get developed. That street is gonna be wide. So the city had to be prepared for the widening of that street. That intersection on Myrtle Beach and Ironwood needs some development. I'm sorry. And it's gonna come whether we like it or not. Nobody has built an R2, and they're not gonna build R2s here in Myrtle Valley. I don't foresee that happening in the future. So that will continue to be a dirt lot, and that corner will continue to be a problem. So to me, I'm gonna support the staff recommendation, and I hope my colleagues have the courage to do the same, because we know it's gonna pass. Now, as far as the Moreno Meadows, I don't know anything about that. So residents that were talking about that, we are not approving that rezoning. I think that doesn't make sense in that area, that crevice. And as far as that crack down the middle of that area, the technology, that's gonna get filled, it's gonna get fixed, and there's gonna be commercial, whether we like it or not. That right on the other next to it is gonna be commercial eventually. We're gonna grow, so.
Well, I guess it's my turn. I want to say what I got to say. Oh, whether, I'm not here to be an ice cream man, make everybody happy. I'm here to do a job. And as I reviewed the general plan update, I've asked myself a simple question. Why are all we here? We give our evenings, our energy, our times. It's because we care deeply about Moreno Valley and about our neighborhoods and our families and our residents. Now, I want to be honest with you. There's only designations in this plan that I don't completely agree with. They're just facts. But leadership, and real leadership, means keeping our eyes on the bigger picture. And it means doing what strengthens the city and ensures compliance with the laws and move us forward responsibly, even when it's not easy. And all those who spoke tonight, I hear you. I hear you. And I really sympathize. Your concerns about higher density next to your homes with borders, lower density neighborhoods. You worry about the traffic, you worry about the parking and air quality. And many of you move to the east end for the peace and the space and the rural lifestyle. And I respect that deeply. But what often missing in this discussion is property rights. Property owners have invested their savings, their hopes, their futures right here in this community. They deserve fairness and consistency. Property owners should be able to build what they are legally entitled to, what the law allows, while still balancing the needs of this community. And it's about responsible freedom, the ability to use one's property within the letter of the law without harming neighbors or the city as a whole. And protecting rights doesn't mean ignoring the community concerns. It means finding that balance. Because a strong city does both. It preserves the character of the neighborhoods and honor who's invested in that land. And now we all know every city in California must meet its housing obligations and state law. If we fail to do that, we risk losing local control. This is serious. This is nothing to be played with. Because if something like this, if they find a way, they could build, like they said, 30 or 40 houses next to your property. And it's nothing you could, this is reality. This is not something eye in the sky. These people mean business. Yeah, our hands are tied when it comes to something like this. Because as you heard, I read the letter itself. They recommended 30 houses, or 30, next to that property. So, yeah, that's just facts. This ain't pretending. This ain't pie in the sky. And if we fail to lose local control and critical funding for roads, parks, fire, safety, affordable housing, and let's be clear about what affordable housing really means. We're not talking about strangers. We're talking about teachers who guide our children, our nurses who care about our loved ones, veterans who serve this nation, our seniors who built this city, our families trying to build a better life, and our working people who put in 40 to 50 hours a week and still cannot afford to live in the community they serve. That American dream is out of reach for many of these people. And that's not right. People who work full-time should have a chance to live here, to raise their families here, to pursue their American dream right here in this city. That means just not renting a home, but owning one, building equity, stability, and pride in the peace they call home. Affordability should not be concentrated in one area of the city. I also believe that affordable housing should be balanced throughout our city because fairness and opportunity should never stop at a neighborhood line. And that balance extends to jobs as well. Listen to this. The ER tells us 85.2% of our residents live here but work outside the city. That's facts. And nearly half travel 25 miles or more just to go to work. That's too many parents missing dinners, too many families stretched in. We build homes, but not enough good-paying local jobs to match. The imbalance hurts our area, our air, our economy, our families. People should be able to live where they work and work where they live. This update moves us closer to the vision, one that values both opportunities and ownership. And my concern is that since our general plan involves more than just zoning, I don't want to jeopardize our city's ability to apply for certain grants that depend on updated policies. Those are facts. Things like our streets, parks, fire safety, and affordable housing. If we don't stay current, we losing the very resources that helps us build and protect our community. Leadership is not always about doing what's popular or listening only to the loudest voices in the room. True leadership is doing what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it might not be the easiest path. And the decision I make tonight is one of the most important of my life. I take it seriously. I will vote with the best interest of our city and our residents. You may not like it, you may hate me, that's okay. That's all right. But I recognize reasonable people may disagree on certain points, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree while still moving forward with respect and integrity and a shared commitment to our community. So tonight I plan to support the staff recommendation with one modification: to remove the wholesale storage and distribution as permitted use in the business flex zone. That change reduces impact and would still allow quality local jobs that shorten commutes, improve air quality, and give families more time together. And at the end of the day, this is what it's about. It's about fairness, courage, and we can protect what we love while protecting the next. If we do that, integrity, compassion, and heart, and I believe Moreno Valley best days are still ahead. And like I said, you may hate me, that's okay, but I still love you no matter what. Love you, man. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay. After that, my concern is not really even with what's going to happen with that Meadows project, 'cause that's not even before us. I mean, that can change. We can deal with that. That's another thing for another day. What we're here for is the general plan update. And my concern is that we're going to dot all our I's and cross all our T's, and when that paper goes before the court and before the judge, and like Elvin said, there's going to be a respondent and an applicant, and I want to make sure that we can mitigate all those impacts, because that was a big question with that, was do we have the dollars to do that? And where are they going to come from? I didn't even hear anything about that. And there were specifics that I would have liked to have heard. Yes, she gave a great report, and maybe she thinks it just went over our heads, but a lot of us, it didn't go over our heads. I'm more concerned with that, with the EIR, because that's what was the whole holdup with everything going through. That's why they said that letter, and you guys said we need more time, we got to refresh this, we got to put it back there, let's go through the drawing board for 14 days, and who knew if anybody slept or didn't sleep, or maybe they got on the mattresses, and let's go, But that's my concern. The air quality, the transportation issues, all that is more my concern than the fact that we're going to do this. It's going to come before us sooner or later. Maybe I won't be here. I don't know. But I am here today, and that's my main concern, is whether or not this is going to stand the test. Now, I was told that whether or not my vote no, it's going to go before the council. And the council's going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to end up going, and then it goes to the court, I guess. That's my understanding. So whether I sit here and I want to hold it up, or do we want it to go to the council and then let the court decide, then that's the way it's got to be. Because my understanding is even if I vote no, I don't know, unless if we get all no votes, or we get a majority of no votes, does it still go to the council? Because it has to go to the council. And what good, okay, I've been here long enough that sometimes my recommendation doesn't even happen, I wish it did, but sometimes it doesn't. And like the gentleman said, they're going to be the ones that gets voted on, because their vote counts. We're placed here. We're placed here. And I'm not trying to go to higher office. But the thing is that you guys can vote on that arena up there. Here, we have to abide by our due diligence of having it go to where it needs to go so that it can be presented to the court. And then the court, hopefully, they're going to make the right decision because they did in the last one. That's why we're tied up with all this. That's why we're in all this red tape, because they saw a lot of deficiencies. They looked out for the residents of Moreno Valley, and they said, no, this is not a go. You guys go back to the drawing board and let's fix it. And they may do that again. But if they don't, that just means it did stand up, whether we liked it or not. And then, like Sean said, every so many years they go back and they look at other things. There's laws that change, things that happen. And that's why we're basically here, because way back in 2004, we didn't have all the state laws that we have now. They're wanting to phase out gas. And I'm not talking just gas cars, I'm talking about gas that you cook on. So there's a lot of things that have happened. So basically, I'm just hoping that it is a, you know, meets all the requirements for the state and for the judge, and we get a favorable decision on it because everybody's done what they're supposed to do. And I'm hoping that they have a microscope on us, really, because I live here. I've been here for 40 years. And I hope that they have a microscope, and if we're not keeping to what we put down on paper, they're going to spring back and they're going to say, hey, wait a minute. And there comes another lawsuit. And I don't think the city wants that. We've had enough lawsuits for whatever reason. So we don't need that. I live on half acre. I have a big lot. Way back when I bought my lot, it was for equestrian. All of a sudden, my neighbor that moved in not that long ago, she wanted to get a horse, and she said, oh, they didn't allow me. I said, well, we're zoned for that. Duh. Somewhere along the line, they changed the zoning on us. I'm going to talk to Sean about it because my great-grandson wants a pony. So basically, that's my 2 cents on all this. I do have vested interest here. Like I said, I've been here 40 years. I lived on a big lot. I don't like those Honey Hollow houses, but they put them up, and I think they're like 7,500 square feet lots. Crazy, crazy. But people buy them. They want their little patch of paradise. You know, who am I to say? But like I said, I'm on the fence. But I'm thinking, if I don't vote a certain way, it's going to go anyway. So, like you say, I can vote no, but my no sometimes turns into a yes for everybody else. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, just for my understanding, if this is changed to R10, they bring in a project that meets R10 standards, there's nothing you can do about it. They can build it. That's why you guys are protecting this, because you don't want to. Many times this commission has made the statement, be careful where you buy, check the land around you, make sure it's what you want around you. Okay, and that's how many projects were approved and put in, and the public could not do anything about them. You're here fighting for your rights around you. This person bought this property, R2. He has a right to build it R2. Unless the zoning is changed, he does not have the right to build anything else but R2. Now, to let you all know also, even if we vote this down here tonight, it's going to go in front of the city council. Okay? It's hard to fight with it. And yes, if they read the writ, it does say that zoning was put aside. That, I guess, would be a good chance to try and make this change. Maybe find another spot to find the R10 that's not so evasive to their neighbors. I don't think the city will do that without pressure. But with all that being said, knowing that if this goes through, you won't have much of a fight to stop the high density to go in. My concern tonight is not so much the zoning changes.
My concern tonight is we have not received, in my opinion, all the information needed to make a decision tonight. We are waiting for a letter of reply on our last submissions of conditions of this. They had a meeting. They said, yeah, we're not going to stop this, but we're going to get it to you before the city council. I don't want to be called a rubber stamper. We don't have all the information, and we still may vote yes, we may vote no. But I think we need to wait till that letter is given to us so we can review it. Again, like everybody says, we don't want any more lawsuits. So if this letter comes back from the person who sued us and said, you're not fixing everything, but yet we went ahead and voted it in, or voted it forward, not in, we don't get that choice there. Well, then that takes it out of our hands to try and help fix this, or to regulate it. That's what we're here for. We're here to protect the citizens of this city against things that will harm their way of life. And I don't know how many up here takes that serious. Some are all going to build it. But my understanding is we are still waiting on a reply. We also got a lot of information, questions, less than 24 hours before this meeting that we should have had more time to review. I'm not going to ask the question, I'm going to make the statement. How many have read that last letter and understand it? We work. We got it at 7 o'clock last night. And now we're here 6 o'clock tonight to vote on it. I'll be the first one on. Yeah, I glanced through it and I saw some things I didn't like. But we haven't got a response back to it. We did get a response from our company that we hired to do this project, but we've also had this project, I'm not going to say submitted, but the AG has reviewed their findings, I'll call it, and disagreed with them. How do we know they're not going to disagree with more? I think we need to leave it at this level until we can get I'm going to say an okie dokie from the AG. That way then we don't have continuing lawsuits. We don't push something through. We don't get called rubber stampers. So on that point, since everybody has spoken, I would like to put a motion on the floor that we continue this meeting until we get, Nikki spoke. Yeah, she did. I waited till the very end. Yeah, if he wants to speak, that's fine. Yeah, okay. I'll give him the chance before I make the motion. But I want to make a motion that we continue this till we get the final answer from AG, whether they accept our last things that we sent them. So why push it through when we don't have all the answers yet? As a businessman, as a problem, then you don't have the floor, I do. If he wants to interrupt me, that's fine, but you cannot interrupt me, okay? So if he wants to call me that I made a motion and move it, that's fine, but you cannot do that, Omar, okay? So the motion is on the floor that we extend or delay this vote until we get back the paperwork from that letter.
Do we have any other deliberations? No, we have a motion that is a continuance. So I guess we can have a vote on that continuance? Or do we need a second?
Need a second on the motion to continue. So due to the lack of a second, the motion dies.
I want to again, I want to support the motion, to approve the staff recommendation, but I do want to make a recommendation again to a modification, whether it goes up or down, it doesn't matter, but to remove the wholesale storage distribution as permitted in the use in the business flex zone.
Why don't you take the R10 out?
Do we have a second?
The business flex zone.
So due to a lack of a second, the motion dies.
I tried.
Do we have a motion and a second for?
Commissioner Stefan, is your microphone on?
I want to ask a question to the attorney. Can we make modifications to the general plan like my colleague wants to do?
You can make, yes.
Thank you, Joanne.
Go for it.
Wow. I didn't think we could.
I would like to make a
We're
motion.
not recommending that you do, but you could.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we could.
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-14, recommending adoption, finding of the facts, mitigation monitoring reporting program, statement overriding consideration, and the certification of the final revised ERR.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Stefan, are you able to vote?
I'm screaming here. Oh, Jesus. I'm going insane.
All right, the motion does carry. All right, do we have a staff wrap-up?
Yes, Honorable Chair and Commission, the next step for this project would be making its way to City Council at another public hearing in November.
Okay, all right, next item on the agenda is other commissioner business, and I don't believe we have any other commissioner business. Do we have any staff comments?
There are no staff comments at this time.
Okay. All righty, the next item on the agenda is planning commissioner comments on items under the preview of the planning commission only. Do we have any commissioner comments?
Alvin, you need to rein in people when they're talking. Some people are going rogue.
Okay.
I got a comment.
All right.
So I want to start by, number one, thanking the entire city of Moreno Valley. I want to thank our mayor, all the city council members for believing in me. I have made a decision with my family and to my work. This will be my last final planning commission. I am resigning. Thank you.
Good luck, Cobian.
Okay. Right. Do we have any other planning commissioner comments? I would also like to thank the staff. I mean, I know it's hard work. We're here till 9. You guys been here all day long. And I look at this and we have the conversations and the staff says, hey, we've tried to dot these I's. We've gone to consultants and cross the T's, and hopefully that, we go through the city council, they'll see some, what they have to see, and then we keep pushing with this. Other than that, but other comment that I was going to make was and this is just a charge to the public, is to get informed, take a look at the Brown Act, take a look at the Roberts Rules of Order, take a look at that, and all this stuff is at the city website. What is under the preview of a planning commissioner? What is under our jurisdiction, and what decisions that we can make and can't make. Sometimes coming in with information will help in order that you can make informed comments. Because we do hear comments like, you guys are putting this, and we don't put anything. Somebody buys a property and we make a decision. So the city doesn't, or the planning commission does not go out and put businesses. Any other planning commissioner comments at this time? No? Rein them in? Remember rein them in? Okay. All right. The planning commission meeting is adjourned at 9:27 p.m. to our next regular meeting at November 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m.